I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have 2 public hearings on the agenda tonight.
We have 3. 3 public hearings.
I'm sorry. We have-
2 are local laws.
Yes, 2 on local laws and 1 on a water main replacement project. I'm going to, can I change the order that we run these in? I would like to run the zoning map changes first. I believe it's proper for the clerk to read the...
A proposed local law amending the town zoning map of the town of Ticonderoga with respect to a portion of lands formerly owned by D&H Railroad Corporation between Lake George Avenue and Champlain Avenue containing 1.84 acres of land from being zoned as historic preservation and land conservation to being rezoned high-density residential, and the floor is open for public comment on that.
Do we have any comments from the public? Basically, what happened is we had 3 individuals that live in that stretch from Lake George Avenue to Champlain Avenue that bought the old D&H right-of-way back to include it into their properties. And the zoning doesn't match up. This change will make the zoning map match their entire property. It's not very complicated. Any comments at all? We'll declare the hearing closed. That's got to be a record. The next hearing is on certificate of occupancy law that Mr. Fuller has spent some time preparing for us. It's been amended again and again. We'll read isn't this a reopening of the hearing?
Again.
Yeah. We had one earlier before.
Yes, we held a hearing in November, December on this law, and it was closed and tabled, and it has been discussed, and it was scheduled for hearing to reopen tonight. And I believe Mr. Uliano has got some comments he wishes to make in regards to it.
Yeah, on the Public Safety Committee, when we had initially met with the judges and quite a few of the folks involved, it was clear that it needed to make sure it addressed the whole community. And some of the portions of this do not, and we're wondering if we could just, if we're going to do this law, let's do it correctly. Can we hold off, sit down, set up a time with Matt, yourself, these folks, one more time, and possibly have one of the judges there. So, you know, when we take this thing and we bring it to the judges, it's something that we're going to be able to work with, because if they don't back us, it doesn't happen. So, and we had issue with some of this. They did.
The committee.
Yes, the committee,
Yes.
Public Safety Committee.
Any other comments?
This,
Mrs.
the fee that you've got in here to be charged,
Yes.
I have $50 written in here, is that what you can read on?
Yes.
And how do you expect to enforce all this when everybody is so tied up with everything else? You've got your building inspector mentioned in here, and your police, and just about anybody else. But there's a lot of laws on the books right now that aren't being followed through on.
Very true. Chief Johns will tell you that we've had discussions about that. I think you're going to see more aggressive participation by the, I've already seen more aggressive participation by the police force. I've had conversations with the sheriff's office, and I've had conversations with Mr. Ball. We are in the process of advertising for another person. We've lost 2 people out of that office in the last year and a half. We lost the clerk and we lost the building inspector, and Mr. Ball moved up from the part-time inspector to the full-time. We have an ad in the paper right now for the part-time position and hope to fill it in the next meeting. And we may, depending on the workload and how the 2 people that are going to be in that office work together, we may re-advertise for a clerk so that we can get both the people in the field more often when we need to. But that decision hasn't been made until we see how they work together and see that there's a real need for 2 people to come back. But we plan on enforcing it with the building inspector's office.
Now, when they go into a person's apartment, and anything happens to them while they're in there, is the person bearing the responsibility that owns the apartment buildings, or
No,
is this the responsibility of the town of Ticonderoga?
That's the responsibility of the town, their town employee, and, no different than a highway member, or water department, or police officer. There are risks involved with everything, that goes on, and they're covered under town insurances.
Do they bring some kind of certificate stating that they're qualified to go into your apartment?
Yes, they don't bring it every time they go to the apartment, but they have an identification badge from the town, all right? And their credentials are on file in the personnel office in the town upstairs. Any other comments or questions? What I'd like to do, rather than close the hearing, is to adjourn the hearing with the stipulation that Mr. Uliano's staff, or committee, Mr. Fuller, myself, will meet before the end of the month and hash out what we need to hash out so that this can be acted on in the next 40 days.
Yeah, so when you get to the regular session of the meeting, just adjourn the public hearing to that date. Our next meeting
Okay.
is. Then we don't have to republish it or anything like
It'll
that.
be the 15th or 16th, whatever it is in April. We'll go to the April meeting.
Second Thursday is April.
10th. It would be April 10th.
We just need to sit down and see when you're available to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let me take a look at that.
Okay. Thank you.
There being no other comments on the CO law, we'll adjourn that till the 10th of April. The third hearing item is a proposed installation of a replacement water main for a water system in the Chilson Hill area. Basically, it's the line, as I understand, well, we don't have anybody from water here tonight anyway, but as I understand, it's the line from the PRV valve up to the reservoir. And it's the one that's covered by the FEMA
That's correct.
damages.
You want me to read it? You just covered it.
No, that's fine.
Is it from the PRV to the
Well,
reservoir?
that I don't know.
Yeah,
just
I think it's from the PRV to the, it's where it lies at Chilson Road.
Yes,
That's what it is.
yes. And it'll run from the new PRV valve that we just installed, pressure relief valve, at the foot of Chilson's, where the little building is. It'll go from there back up to the reservoir. It's a piece of what we need to do to our water system, and it's a piece that was damaged in a hurricane, so it's going to help relieve the cost of the improvements. FEMA's going to pay the bill.
Are you going to redo the gooseneck?
Yes.
You're going to redo the dam and everything?
The dam is still in question because there's uncertainty about who actually owns it and who is responsible for it. And there's also, it was also damaged during the hurricane, and there's a possibility that a portion or all of the repair may still be covered.
Yeah.
But the plan is to bring, we'll get into this a lot more in a little bit here, but the plan is to bring Gooseneck back up to the standard that it was at its best day of operation.
So it will supply.
Actually, it'll be better.
Places that it's supplying now.
Yes.
And then what are you going to do with this well drilled over in Street Road?
Where the well is going to be utilized, I'm going to be going over all of that a little farther down the list, how we're going to use the well, how we're going to use Baldwin, how we're going to use Gooseneck. But right now, what I'd like to just focus on this piece of Maine that we're trying to get done. That'll get us done with this hearing when we get farther down the list.
So this piece that you're doing, is that going to be an established street or Joseph Water District?
It is it now? No, that's not part of the district.
It's a transmission.
It's a transmission main. Will it be part of the district?
Will you establish a district for that, like they had in Street Road?
At some point down the road, that's going to happen.
At some point down the road, that's going to happen, but right now, it's the transmission main that feeds all the districts in the north end.
But there'll be people taking water off that.
Yes.
So.
Well, not that, I don't know if there's anybody on that
Dave
particular.
Clisco.
There are?
There's two, Dave
You're on the old
Clisco.
Chilton Road now?
Yeah.
There's 700 feet of service line that run down from, there's Dave Clisco and there's a couple below the reservoir. The Fish family used to. Dave Clisco, Jimmy Snow, I think.
The rest all have wells?
I don't know, Joanne, correct.
That's all there are down below there. Anybody else would have a well
Bob Fleury.
or a service contract.
Flurry's above it.
Fleury's above the reservoir?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because the state came in and made the town of Ticonderoga establish a street road water district, which we are still paying for, which is falling apart around our necks.
I understand.
We'll fix it.
I understand. That, the piece of pipe that we're talking about, eventually, we expect to see a district all the way from where the district lines stop going out on 74,
From the Grand.
from the Grand Union, where that district line stops now.
Okay,
We eventually expect to see that go all the way to Gooseneck.
so that's the piece you're replacing.
The
all that
piece,
Area.
we will be eventually,
Okay.
yes. This is only for from the PRV valve, just starting up Jolson to the reservoir.
Well, that'll take most of the way to Chilton.
No, not to the fishing game, not quite to the fishing games.
Right line of sight, you can see it from that new building by
I can see.
over
the
Beats,
building.
right up to the fishing game club,
Yeah.
where you're talking, right?
That's
Yeah.
as far as you're going then?
That's as far as we're going with this piece that we're discussing now.
I said, you're not going clear into Gooseneck.
Not at this time, but it is planned for in the future.
And it's federal money, it's good,
Yeah.
it's good to have federal money involved with the line, you know?
But has FEMA already agreed to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all approved, yep.
Yes.
They replaced the PRVs and right now we're trying to get them to cover the confined space, the pit we took the PRVs out of the pit over by Ann Greason and put them in that little building because of the confined space.
That's all gone.
Right, and we're trying to get them to go good for that, it's like $700,000 and that looks good too, because it didn't come up to codes and standards, so, yeah.
This, 2.5 million or something, you said, this project?
2.1,
Does
this
that encompass the storage up there, or is that just for? the
No,
main?
that's just for the main.
Okay, all right, so the reservoir will be another brick in the wall down the road.
And do you expect the people that are listed in this legal notice to pay for this until FEMA does, or
No.
why was,
Do it?
why were
It's
these
banned,
other
right? We have
districts?
a ban, we've taken a bond anticipation note
Uh-huh.
with an interest in this year's budget to cover the interest on it, you know, but is in anticipation of this FEMA money coming after.
You know, you have to do the work before FEMA will pay, I know, I
Yeah.
know. But these other districts, is that who's going to be paying for this? These districts that are listed in the legal notice?
They would, if for whatever reason FEMA backed out, all the districts would be participating in this because it benefits all the districts. It can serve into every district that we have in Ticonderoga.
Not every water district is fed by gooseneck, though, is it?
Not,
There's some-
no, but could be.
Yeah.
If there were an issue with Chilson, or with Baldwin, you could backfeed from gooseneck, okay? It feeds out to Street Road. We plan on utilizing the well for part of that down the road. But again, that's, you know, we'll get into that in a few minutes.
I know you've got a back feed line there
Yeah.
for Street Road, but either they very seldom use it or it's not able to be used. I don't know, because it's not used too often.
What is, Dina?
The back feed line. You established one there across the bypass, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, but there's times when we're out of water for quite a
Yeah.
amount of time and there's no water.
It's what, that's what the mains broke, right?
It's where the
Yeah,
main,
it's when the main
it
breaks.
depends on where it
Yeah.
breaks, whether you can utilize that backfeed.
Yeah.
Okay, when the well is online, you will have a backfeed.
So that will be your back feed there?
Yeah.
It'll
for our
address
area?
all of Street Road.
And that pipe will be replaced, because that's the thing, that, they bought this odd pipe when they put that in, it's kind
Well,
of,
it's the way you unloaded it. You don't unload a piece of pipe by pulling stakes and let it roll, you
Well,
know,
that's-
fractured all the pipes.
That's part of the issue, but not all of the issue.
but that'll,
I know.
you know, but that was part of it, and the way we approached it, it would be that addressed,
Yeah,
as far
that's
as,
the way it was
because that's a lot,
going to.
a burden for that district, for that, you know, for you folks up there.
So when you get this done, this piece of pipe, is there going to be a professional company that knows how to?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes,
That's a good idea.
yes. And they'll
No
also,
offense.
and there'll be inspectors on the site on a daily basis.
Clerk of the works.
Yes, that's something we're going to start utilizing.
Yeah.
Any other comments? At this point, I'm going to close the hearing on the replacement water main. And I'm going to move to the next order of business. I don't want to hold this gentleman up. I know he traveled a long way, and traveling is not the greatest in the world the last day or two. Mr. Davis Yowie, representing Moses Circle Apartments, would like to address the board. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Bill. David Shelley, I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Liberty Affordable Housing. We are the owner and developer of Moses Circle Senior Apartments. And it's a pleasure to be in front of the board again. It's been a while since I've been in front of the board. I think the last time perhaps was when we formalized the pilot agreement for the property. But far beyond that, the town was very, very supportive throughout. And certainly, the project would not be there today without the town's support. So first and foremost, I want to thank the town again for its partnership in this endeavor. It's hard to believe that the project is now in its 6th month of operation already. And we have 4 vacancies, and by the end of the month, we expect to have 2 more residents move in, and we're hopeful that very soon thereafter we'll be at full occupancy. The residents really enjoy the facility and the amenities it provides, and are really enjoying life there. And it's very satisfying to us, and I hope it's satisfying to you as the board that helped us get it possible. I'm here tonight to make a request and ask your help in that same type of spirit of partnership. Very briefly, I know you have a long agenda, but very briefly, when we put the budget together for Moses Circle, we had a budget figure in mind for the water and sewer that would be based similar to the arrangement that Lord Howe and other entities have, and that is using half the unit count. It was our understanding that that was something that certainly would be possible, and we counted that when we put the budget together for the project. We did receive, when we received the first invoice for water and sewer of $6,308.50, we quickly concluded that That did not utilize the rate we had anticipated, and I did a letter to Sue Eustace, basically saying our understanding that we would have the reduced rate based on half the unit count, which would be 15.5 of the, based on the 31 total units. And we had budgeted $12,617. And just to be very open and honest with the board, the property it has a very tight budget that has to be approved by the regulating agencies. We have rents that have to be approved. The budgets are by design and by necessity and by plan, ones that are very bare bones budgets. They include allocations for reserves that need to be made to be approved by DHCR of New York State. And so when we looked at the $25,234 annual fee, which would be just to project the quarterly charge, the property really cannot afford it. It would be a substantial part of the, not only the cost of utilities, it would be a substantial part of the total operating budget. Our total, looking at the budget, our total effective income is approximately $190,000. That's based on the rents as they are set to be affordable and are planned to pay for the operation, pay to make the required funding reserves, and to provide for the basic maintenance and staffing and other operational costs. So tonight, being mindful of I know that the town is going through challenges with its system. We do believe we want to be fair, and that was certainly, Bill was very understanding when I met with him, and he suggested I make the presentation to the board and ask the board's assistance. So that's what I'm here tonight to do on behalf of Moses Circle Senior Apartments. We would like to request that the property, even retroactively, receive the same type of equation or plan for the water and sewer charges that would result in the $12,617. I did some comparisons with some of our other senior properties of similar size, and if the $25,000 would be far in excess of similar size senior properties, and I just think that kind of helps to put the matter in perspective. But again, we believe that the $12,617 fee would be fair, and would ask the board's assistance to approve that moving forward and retroactively with the beginning of the operation for this current year.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Has it been brought up as an item at the committee? I don't recollect talking
No.
about that.
No. That's why I don't know that it's a committee issue. I think it's a board issue, and that's why I had Mr. Yohe in here.
Yeah. I understand, but I'm just thinking about it as far as the, Derek and those guys, that's a significant hit on their budget, the revenue side. I mean, is it going to be, if we were to grant that, at least he could have a comment on everything. But do you have a meter in place right now? Do you have a water meter installed?
I spoke to our maintenance person today. I believe there is a meter there. That's my understanding. That's what I was told.
Is it being read or utilized?
I don't believe it. That was what I was told today, that it hasn't been read.
Now, that's not the old meter that was in the old hospital, right? Is that or did you install a new meter?
It's a new meter, I believe.
Is it a new meter?
Yeah.
I think that whole system is new.
I know that they've done it with other commercial, but we put a moratorium on it, we did, as far as any,
Right now, I'm going to be very honest and very blunt and direct. We have significant issues in our water department, water districts. As you know, I'm new, okay? I have 2 board members that are quite new. Mr. Juliano's only been there for part of a term. Mr. Taylor is our anchor. And I don't mean that detrimentally. Yeah, what are you going to do? Anyhow, there's been a lot of talk and discussion about water rates, how to utilize the rates that we set. There's discussion that small apartments similar to Moses Circle or Lord Howe Estates should get a reduced rate because they're 1 bedrooms and whatnot. But then you turn and you look at other places in the community. We have an aging community. We have any number of residential units that have 1 or 2 people in them.
That's true.
They may have 1 bedroom or 5 bedrooms, but they still only have 2 people in them. I personally have a real issue that because it's a 1-bedroom apartment should get a lower rate than the widow that lives in her husband's home and really doesn't want to give that up and will probably sometime be in one of your apartments. But why should she pay a different rate? She certainly doesn't use any more water. As long as we stay on individual-based rates for individual units, that's a dilemma that I find very difficult to solve. In the scope of our water project, hopefully, we're also going to address in a serious manner the issue of meters, which I feel is the only equitable way to sell water, which would, I think, be very beneficial in your situation. And it would place the burden where it properly belongs. But until that happens, I've had discussions with a lot of the board about actually changing rates on, this ought to go over well, changing rates on the 1-unit entities that have a reduced rate at the present time because of the fairness issue. And I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear when you came here, but if we can, we've got to do more homework to find out who is paying what at the present time. What commercial unit is being assessed, how many specific units. We have that information. We need to gather it and assess what's going on with it and adjust our rates across the board.
How many units you paying for right now? 15, you said?
31.
31.
We had anticipated 15 and a half.
That's what you budgeted for, 15 and a half units?
Does Lord Howe Estates have a meter?
Not to my knowledge.
It doesn't have a meter, it just came up with.
It was a deal that was cut with the former administration and the people that own Lord Howe Estates.
I've recently been in your facility, moving someone in. Fantastic place. People are very accommodating, great place. A few years back, we were separating the sewer from the water on that coming down St. Clair. We had some issues there. And I remember sitting at a water sewer meeting and asking Tracy if his new setup would accommodate your facility. And nobody knew anything about it on water and sewer. It was interesting because you didn't go through the planning board. You were able to build that facility. So we quick made accommodations to handle that structure. They had to redesign that and make it be able to accommodate the extra 31 units coming down. We seem to be playing catch-up. We're not ahead with your facility. When you say you plan for 15 and a half, where did you come up with that number? Why haven't we seen that number as a town?
Well, it was based on the conversations we had at the time and with, that there was some precedent with Lord Howe, knowing that, Lord Howe had that formula, and our understanding was there are other entities or even enterprises that had that same formula. And we were led to believe, we were led to believe that it would be, it would be a very good possibility that, that rate would be available to our project. And that was our understanding, and that's what we moved forward with. And, that was the situation, and we based it on that.
Until this came here, I never heard this number. Wayne, have you heard it? And we're probably the two that's been here longer than the folks that are catching up on this.
Thank you.
We never heard of it. Like I said, we seem to be playing catch-up. We don't know what's going on, and agreements have been made that we just didn't understand. Even who you're talking to, it wasn't the sewer department, it wasn't any...
No, he came to a water sewer meeting. That was
Yeah.
quite a long time ago, though.
But that wasn't discussed.
No, number of units, no.
No.
And that's,
And that's, we should plan all this.
I really would like to be curious, though, if you could collect some data off your meter, if you have a valid meter that works, and then collect some data, and then see how many units that correlates to, because American Water Works Association, a unit is 300 gallons per day, so I'd be curious to see.
As I said, we've got, data available from other similar sized properties. So there's a good frame of reference there. And again, we're very proud to be part of the community. We plan on being here for a long time. We're not going to go anywhere. We appreciate the support from the town, and just again, trying to communicate. That's why I'm here, and I appreciate it again, Bill's offer to have me address the board, that we don't want to be behind. We want the town to be involved. And I think, again, Liberty is a not-for-profit. There's no return to owner on this property. Everything that is very tightly regulated and vetted by the responsible agencies. And we're being honest that the property and the budget can't take that big of a hit. But as soon as I say that, I say we want to be fair. And we want to be fair to the town, and we want to be fair based upon, as you're saying, Bill, what standards are. And so, my being here tonight is asking the board's assistance to help us work together to arrive at a solution that's fair and one that can keep the property within budget and to be continue to be very viable financially as we plan to move forward and keep it that way. So whatever I can do to provide information or follow up to answer your questions, I'm ready to do. So it will be down the road.
Well, I think the metering, to follow the trail of the metering would be a very worthwhile exercise. And I'm not saying it will, but it might have a possibility of affecting the future.
So we will need to make those arrangements through the department, and then we'll make those arrangements for the reading on a regular basis. Okay.
Yes. And I'll notify the water department that you're going to be contacting them to do that.
So the water department will read the meter, not...
Right.
They'll be made.
Right. Yeah.
And then that would give him an opportunity to look at the meter as well, because I'm sure that they have certain standards for...
I believe that meter was put in for this building specifically. It doesn't relate to the old hospital at all. Because there was if I'm not mistaken, there was an issue with bringing the water line. When you made the decision to tear down the old building and build a new building, there was actually an issue with bringing the water line into the new building because it was coming in differently and whatnot. And that, that was all part of it. And I know the contractor that did the work, and that's why I'm privy to that information. And again, it is hearsay, but I think it's pretty factual.
If they put a meter in, that whole place is just really done well. Everything I saw in that place is just done well. So I assume that everything is going to be, the meter will be fine if they install it. So, but it'd be nice to have Derek on. And they have maintenance people too, so those guys can work together and monitor that.
Yeah, we'll have the information, and then that'll
Yeah.
also give good basis for setting rates and adjusting rates, throughout the town. I mean, it can work as a tool,
Yeah.
because we're going to be restructuring rates for the entire town. And then
Yeah.
at some point in the not-too-distant future.
We're actually in the process of going to be doing that real soon. Trying
It
to-
will, that could be a good tool for us as well as you.
Is there, and I certainly appreciate you will follow through on that, is there, at some time, if not tonight, could the board give us some type of indication what might be a range or something based upon that, or once you get the information for our planning purposes? I mean, we've already paid the $6,000 towards the first quarterly payment.
I had personal experience with owning a building that had 11 apartments. And it took a couple of years, but we did get, and the meter was read. The meter was put in by the town, and it was read by the town. And after a year, it was a whole year that I had to wait, they looked at the usage and determined that the usage was less than 50% for water, but the units were charged, just the water was given a concession, not the sewer. So the sewer rate stayed the same, which didn't seem fair to me, but that was what the water rate was what was decreased. So I don't know, it's a little bit different there. They have washers and dryers there, and my apartments didn't have washers and dryers because they went downstairs, which is a whole different thing, but that was what was done in the past.
Well,
Just the water was given concession, not the sewer.
That's why the metering is going to be critical, I believe. I think that's going to shed light on the situation that we don't have now. And yes, we will keep you in the loop and keep you informed of any discussions that we have, any considerations that we're thinking of.
Okay.
It'll be a negotiation back and forth, I'm sure.
I'm available, anytime, and come in and meet for the discussion.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming. I'm glad you made
And
it.
the roads were fine. It was practically bare pavement. As bad as everything was, the trip up today was fine. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. All right. Now, we'll go for an opportunity for anyone in the public that would like to bring anything up. If not at this point, there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting, and we'll move along to resolutions. First order of business will be to accept or correct the minutes of the regular and special meetings that we've had recently.
Move the minutes stand as presented.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the water and sewer reports.
Okay. So moved.
So moved. We have a second?
One second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Excuse me, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have the supervisor's monthly financial report.
I'll make the motion to accept it.
Motion by Mr. Huntsman,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Look for a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Juliano, second.
Second.
By Mr. Huntsman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next item is a resolution to close Montcalm Street for Street Fest, the 26th of July, as has been done in the past, and that's done with the cooperation of Chief John's department. And I believe he's aware of it, aware of the request, and has no issue with it. I'd accept the resolution for that.
So moved.
Mr. Juliano, second.
Second.
Shaddy?
Jenny, is that for the whole weekend or just that's a Saturday, the 26th?
That's just Saturday.
Just Saturday, okay.
From 7 in the morning to 5 in the evening.
Is that the entire thing, or is that just from like the light?
No, it's from Sunshine Laundry to State Bank.
Glens Falls National Bank. You're dating yourself, Glens Falls National Bank.
Okay. You kids would bring that up.
You don't understand it?
So this is the 6th year that we've done this, so it's the same thing that we've done in the 5 prior years.
Okay. We can play. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is a resolution to publish the Operations Efficiency Committee announcement in the community calendar of the Times of Ty. Would you like to address that?
Oh, sure. At our last operations efficiency meeting, there was a lot of discussion about what our priorities should be and things we should work on. And a number of people felt that we should ask the public for input and how they might see things that we don't see, and make suggestions as to how operations might be improved. One of the examples that was used was streetlights. We pay, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but that we pay National Grid a certain amount each year for streetlights, which is well over $100,000. Some of the streetlights are out, and we try to have a system of keeping them lit, but the other part, so part of it is letting, and so we pay whether that street light is lit or not. It's not done on a meter, it's just like we pay per street light. And the other part of that is, letting us know when street lights are out, or letting Tanya know, I guess. And the other part of that is, are there street lights that we're paying for now that we really don't need? Someone brought up, maybe it was you, Fred, brought up an area where the school bus used to turn around, and now that doesn't happen anymore. And we have a street light in a fairly remote area that probably isn't necessary. Well, can we cut out some street lights and thereby cut out some of our costs? And maybe you have other ideas. So we'd like to have our next meeting. It's actually scheduled for the evening of April 23rd at 6 o'clock, and we're inviting the public to bring their ideas of ways that we might be more efficient, cut some costs, maybe do a better job.
Jenny, a few years ago, we did a reduction in wattage on a number of those, and they had to change the ballast in the field, and there was a certain time that we had to leave those in place. Now, I don't know which ones they were, but I know there was a number of them that they changed out.
I've been in contact with 3 different people in National Grid. Tanya's been helping me with it. We're getting a list from them of all the poles that have lights, what the lights are, and where we can improve our system and pick up some money, because it's way overdone. It's, I mean, the kind of money we're spending is really extravagant. I think we can do a lot better.
We're paying rental on the fixture, and then we're paying usage based on the number of daylight hours. So again, you're getting a double whammy.
And the wattage.
And the wattage. So you're paying, I mean, if the light isn't working,
Oh, yeah. There's a whole bunch of things that are coming into play that I don't think any of us realized. I've been getting out of order. I kind of got the discussion ahead of the resolution in second.
Wayne brought it, Charlie seconded.
Okay. We've had our discussion. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Stop. You know, they're getting me about age, now they're gonna get me about my, the way I'm running the meeting. Not an easy place to be. Boy. Next is a resolution for night class, which I read all about it, and I can't remember it.
No, your municipal corporation.
Yes.
It's not just you, Bill.
Pardon?
It is, I'm sorry, it's your,
It's cooperative funding when you pool, municipalities can pool funds. If you've got money in accounts and things, you can
Yes.
pool them into a secured transaction, so they're insured and things like that. Sometimes you get a better return on your investment.
Yes, and it authorizes me to sign off on it.
it's just
That's what it's for.
your packet.
There's copies in everybody's packet.
I just have them backwards.
I'll move that we do that. We got for resign.
Moved by Mr. Taylor. Have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Huntsman. All in favor?
So I just have, I don't really understand this. The pooling of funds is for insurance purposes, not that, we put the money together and then you get to borrow some and somebody else gets to borrow some. There's, how is that?
No, it's pulled together so that we gain a better rate. And we
It's
can,
investment funds.
Yeah.
Normally have, yeah.
short-term, long-term, whatever it be, it gives us an opportunity to get a better rate on our return
Okay.
for our investments, because the towns pool together, rather than put up $10,000 to invest, they'll put up $10 million. And we've got $10,000 sitting here. Do we want to invest in this pool where we're going to get a much higher rate, or do we want to take and do it ourselves? It gives me the authority to sign off and put it in that pool. It's still our money, it still does the same thing. We can get it when we, in the same manner, but we do better on our rates.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the amendment is the same agreement as it was. Now I'm lost. I know it's from, I left it on my desk too. I left that on my desk. But it's an amendment to the NI class agreement as it was written in 2012. It was updated this year.
Susan took to you a while ago.
Yeah, they went out.
I remember looking at it a couple of years ago.
It's in the packet. Go to the packet.
20. Might have done it a couple of years.
It's not the GFP.
No,
No, that's next.
it's a cooperative investment.
I got that one.
It just gives them authority to invest and change accounts.
There it is, right there.
If they see a higher rate of return and or something, they can move money in. They don't have to come back to every single time.
Anybody else need a packet? Oh, you guys have packets?
I have it back. Probably a little paperwork in my phone.
Okay, the amendment dated as of March 14th, 2014 to the New York Cooperative Liquid Asset Security System Municipal Corporation Agreement as amended and restated as of April 23rd, 2012. The New York Class Investment Policy better conforms to the New York State General Municipal Law. The governing board is empowered with the ability to further amend the investment policy without further amendment to the cooperative, but while still maintaining appropriate notice to participants, and allows for the potential creation of other investment options as market conditions change or improve over time. And it allows me to sign off on that amendment. And what that's saying is it gives you the ability to change where your investments are as you're going along if you can get a better deal somewhere else. You're not sewn to this, you're not married to the original. It's just to give more flexibility in moving the accounts around.
Where did this come from? Does this come from the
Comes
association
from
now?
New York Cooperative Liquid Asset Security System, which is part of the state. It's a state agency.
So we've had this before?
Yes. Yes. Basically, it's a renewal.
Yeah, it's similar to like once a year or so, we'll get a resolution for the banks that we deal with. Because they have to have like an over-insuring bank, because, you know, the FDIC is up to 250.
Yeah.
Then above them, the federal banks will step in and basically insure above that. It's a similar resolution. If you get them every couple of years, and I remember looking at the original plan years ago. The investment, I don't look at investment plans, but the ability for the town to do it, because under the general municipal law, you can, because if you think about it, there's power in numbers. So the municipalities can pool their money, so school districts and things like that, counties pool the money and put it into one big investment pot, and that's the better return.
Exactly. Have a motion? Second by Jenny, second by Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, our next resolution authorizes and appropriates a minimum of 10% local match as required by the GIGP for the GIGP project number 1005, stream daylighting. And what that's saying is we will provide 10% match, which is required by the GIGP on all their projects. It's a formality. If you want the money, you got to give them 10% of what you're going to spend.
And we can do it by force account, we can do it by a number of different ways to do it other than
Yes.
upfront money, cash.
Exactly.
I'll move that.
Moved by Mr. Taylor.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. We have a resolution to adopt two interfund transfers, advances as per general municipal law. The first is from general to CP Ticonderoga Airport for $7,485.23. These funds will be reimbursed with grant number 22-13. Can we do this as one resolution?
Yes.
The other transfer is from general to Shore Airport Water District for the amount of $42,226.25. These funds will be reimbursed with quarterly rent payments.
So moved.
Motion, second?
Second.
Second by Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we're on to committees. Water and sewer is first, Public Works. That is, I'm in charge of that committee. And we have a lot of work going on. We are we're actually doing the tree cutting for the Chilson Water Transmission Main project. There's, near the reservoir area, there were a number of trees that have got to come down. They're in the way. They're where we're staging all our materials and equipment and doing a lot of work. And we contacted several loggers and accepted to, we didn't want to hire someone to cut the trees. We wanted someone to pay us for the trees. So we contacted several loggers, got proposals from them, and took the best proposal we could get. It went to Winchell Logging, and he started work last week. The daylight streaming grant that we just discussed, it's part of the new, no, it is, excuse me. We also have a new speedies permit and requirements for the operation of the sewer plant. Our original intent for the daylighting grant was to do work in the Cassie Street area and pick up a lot of stormwater that comes down off the mountain and divert it down through the old railroad bed and then down into the Lachute to take it out of the sewer water. The state and the speedies permit for the wastewater plant is concerned about the number of overflows we have on Lake George Avenue where the sewers are also, we have a combined system. Storm and waste go together. When you get large thunderstorms, you can get overflows that discharge directly into the river. And they want us to address those preferably before we do the Cassie Street area. So we're going to, we've gone to the state, we're going to ask them if they'll allow us to, you're dealing with two different agencies. One says Cassie, one says Lake George. We agree with the Lake George side. Let's do that first, but we've got to get the grant monies transferred, and that is coming along. We're dealing with CP Rail on the old right-of-way, and those efforts are progressing. We're in negotiations over price, and they appear to be being quite fair and cooperative with it, and we may have more news on that in the not very distant future. On the water supply project, we met, the board allowed me to one big part of my campaign, I'm going to go back. One part of my campaign was very strong on water, and then we needed an independent engineer to take a look at some of the cost studies and whatnot that have been done. The board granted me that ability, and we hired Jarrett Engineering. They came and met with us, and with the Department of Health, and we discussed several options as possibilities for what we would or could or should do with our water. And at the end of that, it was suggested that I meet with our present engineers, AES. There were still questions on the table. I can tell you that AES had all the information. There was a lot of questions about cost. AES had the cost studies done. Unit costing, equipment costs, the whole schmear, just what contractors and engineers use to estimate the cost of the project. And it was all there, it was all in place. It didn't have to be in the town's hands at the time, but it was available and it was well done. And we had a big discussion, long discussion about the ways and means of the construction, where we wanted to go with it, what we want to utilize and develop, and what we want to keep in reserve. And from that, the engineers and the board had a special meeting not long ago where we directed our town engineers to go forward with the project with the following focus in mind. The well is a paid-for item. That was done by the previous administration and board. It appears to be playing out very well, and it is not anything that we certainly can't use, especially when we're repairing our surface water sources. It's going to be critical to have it. It gives us the ability to turn Baldwin off to work on it, which is a huge benefit, big savings for doing the work. It will give us the ability to turn Gooseneck off. We can have, when we work on Baldwin, we'll have Gooseneck in the well. When we work on Gooseneck, we'll have Baldwin at the well. And that allows us to really efficiently work on the lines that need working on. There was a lot of discussion about the type of filter that we presently have for our Lake George supply. And I think everyone knows that that filter is outdated. Technology is very old, and we're looking at using a new technology. We are going forward with what's called a pilot program, which is to bring in a mechanical filtering unit, the type of filters we plan on using, that will give proof of the fact that Lake George water is clean and pure, and we can filter it much more efficiently than we are, and that it will benefit the town. And it will also, there's been a lot of stories about we don't have enough space in our building and whatnot. We actually have space enough in our building that we can, at some point in time, filter much more water than is presently being done with the DE filter. So a lot of concerns have been resolved, and a lot of cost savings have been looked at. It will basically set our system up so that when we're done with our work, we will have Lake George and Gooseneck will be the primary sources, with a reserve source from the well. The reservoir will be taken care of, the filtering concerns will be taken care of, and our system will be in better shape than it's been in a long time. And we have taken the steps to go forward in that direction.
Comprehensive. I mean, we looked at the whole gamut, the tank up on Mount Defiance, I mean, the controls involved in, lots of stuff that's going to be addressed.
Thank you.
That tank on Mount Defiance, is that something?
The tank on Mount Defiance is in probably much worse shape than anybody realizes. It's got over 100 patches in it. And it's a matter of having it sit as a constant maintenance issue, or addressing it now while we're trying to gather funding from the state and federal agencies to help us do this work. And quite frankly, it would make sense to the people sitting here to maximize the dollars we can get from the government, and to perform all the work that we can perform. The tank at Cold Springs needs to be redone. We've got to have a tank in place at our present reservoir, because that reservoir is it's just worn out. It's not acceptable. It won't pass muster, and there's no, I won't say you couldn't spend enough money to make it that way, but it's pointless to spend the amount of money that it would take to make it so that it would come up to standards. You can do a tank for a third the cost.
That's the one at Twin Joe's?
Yes, yeah, the Gooseneck Reservoir.
Because didn't they talk about covering that at one time?
Well, they did, yeah, but Tina, to try and, the actual containment area has got significant flaws in it.
Oh, yeah.
And then that, you'd have to repair that, and then you'd have to cover it. And it's way more money than the town could afford.
It was like it was like over $1 million just to cover that they would approve, which the health department would approve, was over $1 million. And that still had a coal tar membranes between the sections, and again, that's not,
Right. And we have, the crux of all this is we have a deadline with the Department of Health of the 20th of June, when we have to have a plan in place as to what steps we're taking in the order we're taking them that goes to the Department of Health by the 20th of June. And this is being developed. It is nearly complete by the engineers as we speak. They're working on it. There's going to be work done on the Tower Avenue Bridge, it appears, this year. It's going to be reworked, rebuilt, and part of that work is going to include a new water main under the river that goes up, feeds Roger Street and goes out to the Lakeshore Road District.
Has the county given us any dates on when they're going to start that work? Or?
Not yet. Not yet. Tonight, we actually took some action on the Chilson transmission main, and the bid documents for that are being done right now. The racetrack road PRV, we're having an issue with FEMA over the funding on that. The old PRV pit does not meet OSHA standards, PESH standards, any way you look at it. But FEMA doesn't want to pay because they thought we could use the old pit. So we're playing that game. I expect we're having PESH come, which is the New York State version of OSHA. They're going to come and give a written opinion to take back to FEMA so that FEMA can pay out.
So this says board action item, do you need to do something with that?
Where did you see that?
On that racetrack road PRV, it says board action item, direction and
it's probably in
authorization.
it's probably in her notes. This is from the AES, because AES is, maybe Sue's got a note there, under secretary.
I think that was for the committee.
It's on which one?
I got that.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not skipping.
I think I'm okay too, but you guys keep messing.
I don't know that you're doing it. The alternative was to do a groundwater study by FEMA, that would have cost $12,000. But if you get PESH to come in and review the old PRV and give them a report, the hope is that
That'll go away.
FEMA will say, okay.
Yeah.
FEMA was looking for something else, right?
FEMA is trying to put a different specification on what we did there, and it's,
So what Todd was asking for was the committee to say, yes, okay, ask
PESH to come, and that was done.
That was done.
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought board action, so I thought board action was this. Okay. Here we go.
Okay. The next meeting for water and sewer will be March 25th at 8:30.
Hey, Tanya, looking ahead to the highway, did we put a notice, did Mike put a notice in the paper about the temporary closing of the roads? Have you seen anything? Posting, weight limit? Maybe the county had to do that.
No.
Yeah, Mark posting, I told you, did the county?
Let's get to where we're going. We did Public Works. Operation efficiency.
So are you gonna do any of these things, you're gonna do anything with the proposal letter?
Excuse me.
Are you gonna discuss anything about the, although you don't need a resolution, I was talking not about this. We had that public hearing for your Chilton water main.
Yes,
I didn't know if an actual resolution needed to be presented.
yes, I'm sorry.
Is there, I don't know what action we
I
take
don't
right
know
now
what we'd have to do on that.
on Chelsea. Eventually you'll have the bid, so I think the project is all,
I think that was just a mandatory thing for us to actually hold that public hearing.
yeah, under
That's what we
agreement, you gotta
talked
have a
about.
public hearing.
All right, okay.
And then
You're supposed to keep me from doing stupid things like that.
No, that was, we're good, we're good.
Yes, okay.
You're good.
And then you have your proposal letter from council to approve.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't bring that up. You have a letter in your packet, 2 letters in your packet from our new bond council that spell out the costs associated and what they will actually do for the money. And I'd like a motion that will allow me to sign off on that.
I'll make a motion for that.
Motion by Fred,
I'll second.
second by Wayne. Any discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Now, Chatty's up.
Operations efficiency, we had our second meeting. The staffing chart, is that still in the process?
Yes, Amy has been missing some time. She has been under the weather, and we're a little behind on that.
Okay.
But it will be ready for your next meeting.
Same thing with the employee handbook. We started discussing it, but then everybody felt they needed to look at it more. Can we put that on a, do we need to have a, discuss it openly at another meeting, or?
I would-
that then?
I would like to see it, I think it should be approved at operations and then come back to the council, or come back to the board, and we can, then we can act on it. I know there was another review being done and another reworking of one section, but then I believe it's supposed to be done. I can check on that tomorrow and see if our HR people have got that done yet.
It would be any way, Bill, we could come by a summary of the changes. I mean, just the points that are changed.
Well, they are,
Is it completely redone?
they've been color-coded as they come.
They are summarized. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, are you going to reach out to the union reps when you have this meeting about it?
On the handbook? No.
Yeah, you don't want to let them come in and, if something throws up a red flag, I don't know, you tell me.
Well,
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking the handbook is the handbook.
Yeah.
Okay? The drug policies and those things are going to be, those are negotiation points. But the handbook is a handbook, and you don't, if you're here, you're going to be under a certain set of regulations, and if you're hired after the handbook is adopted, you come under a different set of regulations, and that's the way you go forward.
And the thing would be is that if the contracts are silent, the handbook is rule and guide, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's all spelled out in it. I mean, if you got to take 10 minutes and really get into it.
I understand that, I just know.
No, it's there.
We're going to, I'm just talking about input. I'm not talking about them, eventually we're the ones who are going to vote on this, and I understand that, but I didn't know.
Well, I've got a couple other points I'm going to bring up later in the meeting, but because of past practice and past difficulties, I think the handbook is a policy, a board policy. It's not a negotiated item. The
I'm not talking about negotiating, I'm just talking about if they come in and say, geez, this would help. We might not have to do, we don't have to do it if we don't want to.
We can bring it to them if you want, but, it could turn a policy that we would like to see come, or an item that we would like to see come to an end at some point in time into one of those ongoing things. And then, we've had the same thing with the personnel evaluation forms, okay? And we're going through that process again. And at some point in time, the state is going to say, you have an obligation to evaluate each and every employee once a year, and you're not doing it. Not on my watch, thank you. I want to get that established.
I agree.
The way I think to do that part, those policies are subject to negotiation, okay? And because of that, we've had them kick back and kick back and kick back. We've got a new stack to pick through to see if there's one we like or want to combine 2 or 3 or whatever. That's going to come up, but my thought process is when we have that stack, we're going to review it in the next 30 days, and we're going to all have 3 favorites. Whichever 3 come up the winners, when we put all our favorites together, we'll, work through that. We'll take those 3 to the unions. And they can look at them, modify them, whatever, but come back to us with 3. And out of those 3, we better have a working document.
Or you can legislatively impose them.
That may be the case, but I want to give them every opportunity to step up and be part of the process.
At the end of the day, we're going to decide. I was just looking for input. I wasn't
Yeah,
looking to be able to influence the decision.
But I'm thinking the handbook is a different entity than the contracts and the drug and alcohol
Because we have one
policies.
that the CSA approved at the county level. That was, approved by the CSA upper level people. It's being used at Essex County, so.
But to get back to the point on the floor, if I will get hold of HR and see if that review and correction has been made and get it back here for our action. And it would be a good idea to take it to your committee and then bring it back to here.
Okay, the committee won't meet again, well, we'll have the public meeting in April 23rd, so the committee won't meet again until May, the way it is right now.
Is there any reason we couldn't, at the April meeting, is there any reason we couldn't look at the handbook after
At the public meeting? when
the
is
public
invited?
is done?
Sure, is everybody going to come to that meeting?
The committee?
No, the board member, well,
No, just the committee. And then the committee approves it or disapproves it, and then we bring it back to the board for action.
okay.
And the department heads, the people that have to implement this too, is that, like Tracy, I know had some concerns about some of the wording in the existing one. I remember a while back, I don't know.
Well, they're all invited to the committee.
Okay.
If they choose not to attend, there's not a whole lot we can do about that.
Okay. Well, so those are the things that we discussed, as well as what I mentioned earlier about asking for public input. And also another thing was asking departments for their suggestions. Maybe Mark has a suggestion of how he can work better with another department, or Tracy has a suggestion of how his department can work better with another department. And I'd really like them to offer their suggestions as well. So that's operations efficiency right now.
Thank you. Buildings, grounds, parks, and recreation.
I wasn't here for that meeting, so Chatty was nice enough to chair that for me, so this would be her reports. I'm just going to sit back No comment. That was too easy.
Excuse me. Buildings and grounds, we had a request for use of the beach for a fundraiser for the Festival Guild, and I think Kathy Burdick was bringing that request to Tanya. Fill out the applications. She also had another request for use of the gazebo. Big thing here is, does anybody have any questions about that, about the beach? About about organizations using it?
I have a comment. I was contacted by several area ice fishermen that have to take their shanties off in Lake George by the 15th of March and wanted the gate unlocked because the beach is the easiest place around to get their shanties out. So we accommodated them, and they're very happy with it. And next year, we should try to get it on somebody's radar so that when the lake freezes substantially, we can open the gate and let them go on. And then just prior to March 15th, or when the ice begins to go, we can unlock the gate and let them take them off. The other suggestion I have is that, so we don't have it open for a long period of time, is that we make it known that that's going to happen and let them bring their shanties to the beach and then have a day or 2 days where we open the gate and let them take them out.
I didn't realize that there was a gate that was actually locked in the winter.
Yes.
Yeah. It was put there because the ice fishermen used to take their shanties on and off Lake George. And they did so much damage to the beach that we locked it. You're looking good tonight, by the way. I like that look. You were here, you didn't know. How would you know? Anyway.
Well, certainly if everything's frozen and snow covered, it's less likely to do damage than if
We'll
it's...
fix
It's
it.
one that
You know,
apple runs the whole...
yeah, you know, the prisoners come, they redo it, we can fix it. You know, I don't think it should be locked either. I think the public should have access to it, so.
Thank you.
But that's why it was put
You
there.
look nice too.
Well, she asked why it was there. I was just answering her question.
There has been issues in the past,
Yeah, but we just need to handle the issues rather than stop everyone from using it. That's wrong.
but that's why I asked you if you were personally going up and doing that.
And I did.
Yeah.
So are we giving
And I'm
the...
not doing it again without boots because I thought it was all plowed. That was cold.
So do they have a date when they, I guess they aren't going to just leave it there, so they can't leave the shanties there, they have to pull it off.
Yes,
So it's just
exactly.
get on and off.
I believe it is March 15th, isn't it?
It is.
March 15th is the deadline?
This is the last
For
day.
getting off Lake George.
Right.
Yes, all ladies.
Yeah, that's true, all the things,
That was
Champlain
part
and
of
all
the
that.
Legally.
issue too, is we couldn't get them to get their shanties off.
And
Yes.
and there's a heck of a fine if they don't get them off. You go into the lake.
No names on them.
So there'll be a little bit more discussion under Parks and Recs for the beach, but going through the Buildings and Grounds meeting, there was a question as to whether or not the Alfondre architecture agreement was signed.
There's still a question about that because we cannot find it.
You'll have it tomorrow.
I just resent everything to Tanya.
Yeah, it's,
I'm gonna hold it.
okay.
Then we're going to carry it over to Bill. We're going to carry it to Amy.
Dave, take care of that. All right. Thank you. So that meeting went right into the Parks and Rec meeting, and there was more discussion about lighting, lighting behind Pride specifically, and somebody was going to talk to Tanya about those lights are different from the other lights as far as how they're repaired. Did we find how we can repair them? Did we find somebody to repair them? Or?
Was that the one that Mr. Crossman's father put in? Did you have a chance to speak to Mr. Crossman? I guess?
Not yet.
Okay. His father put them in, and they're unique, and he would know how to do them correctly.
He knows that there's an issue with it.
Yeah.
He's been telling us that, and he's
Yeah.
just been kind of fixing it. I did not know that they were out, because I would have called him, and I did ask you when you said to go ahead and call him.
Yes.
And get him fixed, and I just haven't called him because he's been out on another job.
Yeah.
Any lights that aren't on, somebody should tell me.
And those are those cast iron ones that run out across the bridge?
No, these are the ones behind the Pride building, not over that Fraser Bridge. They're a little different. Those lights belong in that.
They're unique though, and his father did,
Yeah.
and it'd be nice if he could help us with them, because he,
There's a major part
Understands
that
it,
has to
yeah.
be replaced to it. He's very well aware of
and
it.
we'll fix it.
Okay, thank you.
Are they out altogether? Are they just blinking out? Out?
The other item is requesting Mariah Shock to do some work at the beach, painting and cleaning up, and I did contact Mike Perrin to do that. And then the other discussion was the light that TMSP has purchased for the fishing pier to shine on the falls. And they'd like to have that operational by May 17th. And I think I've contacted everybody I need to contact for that, or that's all.
I have not spoken do they have an electrician, or am I?
No, that was part of the discussion, who was going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have not. Are we now responsible to come up with an electrician, or?
Well, Dave
We
said
need,
yes.
we need to find an electrician. Yes.
Okay, we will.
That's not a
No, they told us they were gonna do it in its entirety.
Exactly.
You didn't have no skin in the game at all. That's what she, when they rolled it out, Bob Eagers was there. And
Okay, so them doing it themselves is to take my 80-year-old janitor out of the armory and have him go down and wire it. I'm not good with that, okay? So, plus, you've got kids down there and everything, I'd rather have a licensed electrician handle the wiring on that pole, I'm sorry. And if
I
we've
thought
got...
that's what they were gonna do.
Yes, I mean, you can,
but then they put it back on Charlie up there, is that?
yeah, and
They were under the impression that he was going to help. He's not going to help.
Running conduit, no,
No.
Charlie, no.
And because of where it is and the current it's carrying, I just as soon have a licensed electrician, if we can, handle that portion of it. Just hook up the wire.
If the guy put conduit, they gotta bury conduit, right? You gotta come up through the concrete, it's concrete, oh, man, somebody's gonna have to, I think they said they had a sleeve, or they had something that they would be able to use. I don't remember.
They did provide some specs for that. It said we didn't have the specs.
Yeah.
They want it by May.
May 17th, that's when, that's the town cleanup day, so they'd like to have it working by then.
You were gonna run on the outside of the railing, climb it to the railing, I think that's what it was. Does that remember? The conduit was gonna run around the outside.
Maybe we can get some representation to next week's meeting.
Do we still have a copy of those specs? When you bring Alfondre's thing, bring that with you, would you? And
You got it, Dave?
If you can copy that for the box.
We'll go through it.
Stuff they're supposed to pick up. We'll send that over.
Okay, that's it for Parks and Rec, thank you.
I've got one other thing I'd like to bring up. It is Mr. Iuliano's.
Yeah, and I put that on Chatty,
Okay.
and I apologize, Chatty, you got hit with stuff, you should have, you should have had a little heads up on that, I'm sorry about that.
I've got another one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the leaded glass windows in this building
Yes.
are in a horrendous state of disrepair.
Sure.
Even the ones without BB holes,
Oh,
okay? And they desperately need to be re-leaded or we're gonna lose them.
as soon as I get the supervisor to sign the bid specs for Alfondre, we can look at financing for some of this stuff, but he's pretty busy. Nice guy, but he's busy.
Okay, and he looks good.
Was that part of the, was that included in their bid specs?
Yes, the windows in here, the heat, there's a lot of things
Really?
in here included.
All the lid.
The windows are part of that.
windows?
The
Okay,
You know,
well, we
ran
may
into
have to, we may have to do something on a temporary nature.
That's fine.
Like we've done out back here.
Okay.
Because I noticed yesterday in the storm, it's in real disrepair, and if they aren't taken care of, you're gonna lose a real artifact.
Okay.
you know. I'll stop. Next up would be, economic development, and I guess that would be Jenny. She's on a roll.
How's that voice work?
Oh, yeah, lousy. We had our second meeting on February 18th, and we had a presenter, guest presenter, Stu Baker, who is the planner for the town of Queensbury. And the reason I invited Stu was because we were talking about how we go about updating our comprehensive plan. And Stu said, well, if you don't need to open up the comprehensive plan. What you need to do is to create an attachment to it, which we're calling a community economic development strategy. And he emphasized, he gave us a presentation, which I didn't realize all of this was in your packet. It's probably more than you want to know about that meeting. But the presentation is included in that. And he emphasizes this is not going to readdress land use. We're trying to get this done before the next round of the consolidated funding application grants are due sometime this summer. They're thinking that because it's an election year, that the grant applications are that the governor will want to award the grants earlier in the year. So that means the applications will go out earlier. And we want to have this update so that we have a stronger position when we're applying for grants. And the other part of it is that this will take all the plans that the town has paid for in the last 10 years and go through and look at what hasn't been done. It'll look at what has been done, but it'll make a list of what hasn't been done and assign those things a priority and actually schedule them. And people will have, certain organizations or individuals will have responsibility for certain items in that list. So it gives accountability to the plan, the strategy as well. So we were supposed to have a meeting this morning, but because of the storm, I postponed it. But so far, Chris Mallon from the mill said, well, he'd like to include the mill's needs for when he's hiring. He has engineers who come in and, they don't have the right kind of housing. We have expensive housing and inexpensive housing, but there doesn't seem to be professional housing that's in the middle. They might like to live in a rural area, but they don't have high-speed internet. They don't have certain entertainment. So he's going to address the mill's need in that respect, which I think is great because the mill's so important to us. So we each took different parts of that. Any questions about that? I'm not an expert in this area. I'm learning as we go along, but it's a great opportunity to use all these plans that have been developed over the years and tend to collect dust. So we'll take, so much of the information is still pertinent, rather than hiring another consultant to do another plan for us. We're taking this information and moving forward with it. That's it for economic development. Does anybody have any questions?
This multi-page thing here, Chani, this is all part of it?
This was,
60, is page 62, 63, with all these different...
these were examples that Stu provided. He had done this in the city of Potsdam.
Okay.
And he showed how
But these are just for illustration?
For illustration.
Okay.
They had taken several different plans and put it into a strategy, an action plan, more of an action plan.
I see.
And that's what, yes, 64, 65, like the column on the left tells you what plan that came from, and then it briefly describes the strategy or what would be done, and then it says who the responsible party is.
Okay.
And then it also has, some of these things will be high priority, they'll be done quickly. Some things will be 5 years out, so it gives you, it says, well, this keeps it on the radar, but it identifies the ones we're going to work on first.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Teddy? Airport, Mr. Juliano.
Okay. Two things happening at the airport. We rebid the document for the fuel farm, and the award went to Risnick. They were the low bidder. Well, yes. They were awarded the bid.
They were both there.
They were low bidder.
Yes.
So they had a week to come up with some documents that, to this point, they have not come up with, which could be an issue because it puts off awarding this, I guess, by resolution to the next board meeting, and we're running out of time. This project was supposed to be started and finished before summer, so we could capitalize on the planes using the fuel to pay for the fuel that we're going to be putting in there. So I don't know how we proceed, but I'd like to do something so Risnick moves on this. They've had a couple of weeks that they haven't.
My suggestion would be to have the engineers notify them by registered mail that they are in compliance with the bid specifications because they haven't provided the women-owned business information that's needed to complete the bid. And
I would just follow the contract with a letter.
yeah,
If it says registered, send it registered. If it doesn't, don't. Just follow it. When I run into these things, I create a checklist. Contract says we have to do this. Boom, 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 boom.
okay, better idea.
Along with to put something in there that if they don't provide it by whatever day you're going to put it in, whatever day you pick, then they can appear at the town board's end of the month meeting to be heard on why it should be awarded to the next lowest bidder.
Okay.
Just give them that opportunity to be heard.
How big a tank are you putting in, Dave?
Sir?
How many, 4,000, 8,000?
8,000. Yeah. This one's 8,000. Doesn't have to be filled.
Do we have any money budgeted for fuel to put in
Yes.
there?
In my budget, not the airport budget.
Not the airport.
Budget for fuel, yeah. Figure that out. The other thing we had spoke about, Ernie Tobin was working on the documents it takes to actually receive fuel. Okay, and we wanted to get going on that process, so if we wanted to buy fuel, we could buy fuel. So he's putting together the documents that they use up in Lake Placid for that airport, and he's also looking at Vermont, for the people that buy fuel in Vermont. So if we can get this documentation in place, we do not have to buy, but if we need to buy, this document has to be ready to go. So we're looking at moving on that. The other thing we're looking at is the tie-down fees, and we're looking at a turbine fee for landing. There's a jet that's in there all the time. In fact, we had talked to the pilots, and they're used to paying a higher fee when they land. They thought it was kind of interesting, but we're looking at a fee for turbine jets. They're bigger, they take up more room. They take up quite a few tie-downs actually when they're sitting out there, and a fee specifically for them, because we're seeing more of that come in, which is kind of unusual. So that's on here too, as far as we're looking at that.
So do you want to pass the resolution to establish a $30 landing fee for the jet turbine?
Yes. Can we do that, Marlene? We could do that.
Second by Mr. Taylor. Any further discussion? Is 30 enough?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that high enough?
Yes,
That's
that's landing, that's not tie-down.
that's landing, not tie down. Tie downs are a different entity?
Yes. Looking at a landing fee for these things, because we don't have landing fees for any other aircraft as
Okay.
such. We just have tie-down fees. But they spend the day when they come.
Do we have, Okay, so you're gonna hit them with a landing fee, not a
Yes.
tie-down fee?
Yes.
Okay.
So they won't have a title.
Well, if.
Unless they
if
spend the night.
These planes don't spend the night here.
Oh,
The jets don't stay overnight. They'll put them someplace if they have to spend the night. They won't be here. So. But we had actually talked to these folks and found out how they did it at other airports. They were very helpful to the pilots and the fellow that owns the jet. Extremely helpful. So
Okay.
that's who we base this on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
What else did you have for the airport? Anything? That's all I have.
Back up,
The master plan? Do you want to talk about? Oh, go ahead.
just back up to the fuel station. As far as sticking the tank, charting, is it going to be all automatic, or is there going to be moisture sensing? I mean, in terms of the DEC regulation and that kind of stuff?
All that'll be on the tank. Ernie has agreed to take care of the maintenance on the tank as far as the filters and stuff initially. Okay? Everything will come to Tanya's computer as far as fuel use, credit cards and all that will run through Tanya's computer. We're looking at a system that we use the credit card not only for fuel, but for landing fees, tie-down fees, because it's much easier for a pilot to do that. Okay?
So
It's a
the
card
airport,
swipe. It's a card swipe.
Yes, yeah, it'll be at the fuel station.
so the airport manager used to be the highway superintendent?
Still is.
Is going to continue with that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's all I got, thank you.
Okay, airport master plan, we are working on. We're looking at the future, and the future includes a building which will have snow removal equipment. We're talking about a loader, the 10-foot bucket on the loader. We're talking about a building out there, that's all part of the master plan coming out. Redoing the beacon, it's out there in Lurkey's-Field, is it, I believe, we have the access to that, so that's all part of the master plan. It's coming up, and that's available. Tanya, you have that in your office? The master plan for the airport you do, because that's right. So that is available if anybody wants to look at that. It's pretty extensive.
Is
The
that
big-
complete now?
I'm sorry?
Is the master plan complete for the
The
airport?
master plan is a work in process, because as we put hangars out there, as we put buildings out there, as we relocate buildings, that will change a little bit. Right now, APA regulations for 2 buildings out there is all we can have. Okay, we have Ernie's hangar out there, so we're looking at kind of a erector set where everything we build is attached to Ernie's hangar in some way, shape, or form. So there'll be a big one building out there someday, all over the place. But that's because we have to work within the guidelines of the APA and everything else, so. But we're working on that.
What I would suggest is that become part of the economic development strategy, so I
Yes,
think.
I saw that in your, and we'll definitely do that.
Okay.
Yep.
You're going to move the Lincoln light, right? Is that the projectile
No,
projection?
we're not looking at moving it, we're looking at fixing it where it is.
Oh, okay.
It can't come closer to the airport because it's in the flight path of the
Okay.
aircraft, so we
Okay.
can't put it inside the fence, and it's too.
Yeah, I read some paper or something
Yeah.
that mentioned
They
that.
initially looked at that, and the FAA said no. That's just the way it is.
Dave, as far as that comprehensive plan for the airport, is there any notion of moving it or extending the runway
Yes.
to 5,000 foot?
That's in this plan,
Oh, it is, okay.
yes,
And that would open up a lot more opportunities, right?
Yes.
Jets.
yes. Well, anybody can land there that doesn't mind if their insurance is void,
Right.
but, you know, if
Is
you want
your-
to be insured, you need 5,000 feet.
Is your fuel station going to have a second compartment for jet fuel?
No, no, we're not looking at accommodating jets
No,
right
but,
now.
but down the road? no?
We can. We'll have enough room to put another tank out there if we need to, but we're not looking at doing that now.
So when these jets land now, they're doing it without,
This gentleman owns the jet, so he has his own insurance. If you were in a commercial capacity or a commuter, or like that, when B&K was up here, they were bringing people up here, they were chartering a jet to come up here, their insurance doesn't cover when they land on less than 5,000 feet. Okay, so anybody want to open a commuter service with a larger jet, turbine or bigger, is going to need that.
Similar to driving your car on the ice somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly it.
Anything else for Mr. Uliano? Mr. Taylor with Highway.
Okay. We did have our meeting on the 25th of February
I'm gonna
at
take
12 noon.
Highlighter.
Yeah, I'm not going to read it word for word, I'm just going to hit the highlights. With myself and Fred, Mike Parent, Farley Ezzo, Carla, John Deming, and Dave Woods in attendance. Others present were Matt Fuller and Chatty Van Wern. One thing I want to do before I forget it, at the organizational meeting, when I named the setting members of the Highway Committee, I forgot to include Farley Ezzo, Mike Parent, and who was the third one? There was three of them. Who? Carl? I don't remember.
Yes.
Was it Carl? Okay.
Carl.
But I need to amend that resolution to include Farley Ezzo, Mike Parent, and Carla Vigliotti as setting members of the Highway Committee for
Do we have a
2014.
second?
Have them amended.
You want
Just add them to
Just
it.
add them? Yeah,
Okay.
I would offer that in the resolution.
Second?
Do
All in favor?
do employees, you can put employees on the committee, so you're voting your own raise? or-
It's like Tracy and Derek being on the water committee.
Mhm.
And so,
They're just
The committee doesn't
ex
vote on
officio,
your
right?
raise.
Yeah, they don't.
They're not,
There's no
they're
votes.
advisors, they're not on there, right?
well, it's, the committee can't take action.
They have to come back to the board. You know, they make
The
recommendations.
board, the committee comes to the board and the board takes the action.
Okay, that came up at one of my committees, so good, that's good to know, thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
I think you seconded that, sorry. I started.
I will. I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Moving right along.
We did not have any guests wishing to speak. The current report of expenses and revenue, the $1.7 million budget has been used, 22% of it has been used year to date. On the DEC spill update, Matt Fuller will be in contact with the DEC to get the cleanup procedures that need to be completed by this summer. And can you comment on that, Matt?
Sure, we had a call, not this week, the end of last week with DEC, and we had a bunch of exchanges back and forth. It looks like the digging and hauling for the most part can be done by Mike. We just have to make arrangements, permits and things as to where he wants to take it. And the second part of it will be where the monitoring wells actually have to be. And AES has worked together a checklist that came out yesterday, the day before. And once we get back from Mike, that yes, he can do the work part himself, the crew, then we'll submit that to DEC. I'll sign off on it.
So the soil that's taken out of the ground, does it have to go to that kiln and be
Depends on this
heated?
grab samples as they do it.
And how much hydrocarbon or how much?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't know the extent of what,
No.
okay. Okay. Thank
If
you.
it's too much in it, does it have to go to Franklin County? Is that
Yes, if it's over, then it has to be trucked.
right? But
That's
if
when,
it's below that,
put it back in the ground.
okay. That's what I was curious about.
Under the chemical bids, they were opened on the 24th of February, 2 p.m. There were no bids submitted in time. As it turned out, 2 bids came in after the deadline, one from Clean Harbor and the other one from PSI, which amounted to the $7,500 range is where they were. This is to dispose of some obsolete chemicals that we have at the highway garage that have been around there for several years. Line painting bids will be opened on March the 24th at 2 p.m. That will be for painting the lines in the streets, the parking spaces and crosswalks and what have you. Bids for dirt will be opened on March 24th as well at 2 p.m. That'll be for the consumables that we use at highway routinely. We went over the list of the paving jobs that Mike has proposed for 2014, and this list of streets would include the Portage, Champlain Avenue, Treadway Street, Schuyler Street, Shanahan Road, and Warren Hill Road. And we had quite a lengthy discussion on that. The project on Warner Hill would amount to a 4.8 miles on its own. And usually that you're looking at about $100,000 a mile. So clearly we would exceed the amount that we would have available. Currently we have $380,000 in our 2014 budget for paving. So again, we talked quite a bit about it. Mike is going to work with the water and sewer people to find out which streets he's proposed has the best viable infrastructure, buried infrastructure. So where a street that we could pave and with the least amount of risk. The last 3 streets we paved in the village here have been dug up already. Matter of fact, North Wayne Avenue was dug up again today with the popped water main. So, at any rate, we're trying to be more discerning and more forward-thinking in terms of where we put our resources, seeing that it is limited. They are going to continue to work at coordination of project work in the off-season, so we don't end up doing things that don't make sense. A discussion was held in regard to purchasing a sidewalk plow, and as it turns out, by the time we got around to looking at it seriously, the one that they found was a used unit out in Michigan, and it ended up being sold. But as it turned out, we didn't have enough money in our equipment capital reserve to buy it at this point anyway. So the committee wants to put it on hold. I had brought up a subject about as far as water and sewer being able to help with some of the costs associated with using salt exclusively in the village here. As it stands right now, we use a salt sand mixture. It's 4 to 1, 4 buckets of sand, 1 bucket of salt. At any rate, it clogs up all the pipes, the bearings, goes down to the wastewater treatment plant, combines with sanitary sewage, has to be factored out of the sewage plant, then has to be handled as a hazardous waste, trucked to Franklin County. I mean, a huge cost. So at any rate, we talked about it as far as it being in the sewer department's interest to maybe help with some of the cost of using salt exclusively in the village. I did talk to Mike about it, and he estimated that it would take an additional $40,000 to $50,000 a year to use salt in the village only. Currently, salt is selling for $63.39 a ton, and like I said, it is a huge part of our budget. We just did we took $100,000 out of fund balance because we've exceeded the amount we had budgeted for salt already this year.
What's the cost of taking that material out of the sewer?
A lot.
More than
A lot.
Do we know?
It depends on, I mean, I've seen they've done it a number of different ways. They've had the inmates shovel it out physically. Right now, we have the vac truck, but it has to be vacuumed out of those storm tanks because it's, the sewage runs in there, then the sand settles out, and then the water is pumped off, then that residue has to be handled as hazardous waste.
It's carted to Franklin.
It's carted to
Yes.
Franklin. You handle it 3 or 4 times, not to mention the damage it does to impellers, bushings, bearings, all your.
That's fine, I just
Yeah.
want to know that it's in excess of the money for the salt.
Well, we don't know, and it's, like I said,
Well, we need to know that.
well, I brought it up to Tracy as just a forethought, just for consideration to think about it, because it'd be win-win for him. But again, he would have to help with some of the salt costs, which,
Well,
I
do you
think
think at
that's-
some point in time, somebody's going to say you need to take the salt out of the water before you dump it into the Lachute River?
probably, hopefully not in my lifetime, but I bet it will happen.
Because that's going into Lake Champlain.
Well, it goes through process, right? The issue is that in areas where you have the combined sewer, or sanitary and stormwater, that sand ends up in the plant. As you separate them, if you eventually get to an entirely separated system, you won't have that issue anymore, and then you would go back to looking at the environmental effect of, salt versus sand. They're both an issue. Sand.
We're treating stormwater too, so that's coming. So we're treating the water no matter where it goes. We're going to have to treat it.
I had brought up a couple things. One was consortium buying of road salt. This past year, we ran into quite a bottleneck in terms of supply and demand. Everybody wanting salt and not being able to get it. And what I was thinking about was where could we not partner with some of our adjacent townships? Maybe the guys that suggested we build a bigger salt storage facility, maybe do a shared service and buy the salt when the demand is less. Buy it in the summertime. When the salt mines are maybe not at peak production, maybe you get a better deal and wouldn't be faced with this bottleneck. It was an idea which we said we'd talk about. I also brought up, I spoke with Bruce Reed, who was the town of Keene highway superintendent. He was 34 years he was there, and he had said he had cut the salt consumption by 20% by using that treatment that the state uses. And again, it was something, just a way to possibly save some money on salt. We have these Dickie John spreader controls that, based on engine RPM and wheel speed, they control the speed at which the spinner turns. He said he got his all calibrated and tuned up. That was part of his program. So at any rate, we're going to work on that in the future. The 2014 Western Star with dump box and plow should be delivered in March. The 2007 Western Star 4900 is almost finished with repairs. The shop had missed the tarp damage.
It's back.
On the original estimate, right, it's back. The radios need to be inventoried and get quotes. We currently have $2,000 in the budget, and that's going to be a sticky wicket here going forward, because technically those radios have to be the narrowband by, from what I understand, they should have been this past January. They should have been the configurable radios, which we do not have. So that's something the board needs to be aware of. And as far as developing a plan, I guess they're going to be looking at possibly utilizing the police radios as a short-term fix, but something we need to be looking at further. New building specifications were discussed for a highway garage. Dave Woods has suggested getting an estimate to fix the current building. Fred didn't think that was the current building could be fixed. And like I said, we've batted this around a number of times as far as a new building. Mike had went down to Kingsbury's building a new highway garage, and he looked at theirs and looked at the plans and had them here and everything. And he said between $1.7 and $2 million range for a highway garage, which, there's no money in this budget for it, or for even looking at it, for studying it, but it's something that I think we need to approve for and develop a plan to get to something workable sooner than later. So anyway, Mike just went on to say he didn't want to set on this any longer, which again, I don't know. Does the board have any?
Does Mike have any funding available?
No.
Well, then I guess he's going to sit on it going forward.
Oh, okay.
There were, I remember last summer, I think it was, I went to one of the consolidated funding grant presentations that they did for the region, and there was an area, there was opportunities under operations efficiency, and maybe, I know Alfondre made a proposal for a building that would be a public works building essentially. And it seems like there isn't a lot of support for that, but if we could build the case that having everybody together would improve the efficiency of our operations, then that might help secure a grant for building a building for public works. That's just a suggestion. I'm not an expert on the grants that are available, but it seems like that would be a win-win. You get a new building and people, we might actually have operations that work better than they do now.
Dave and I in January went up to one of the meetings that the town of Westport had. And they've gone to referendum twice, and it's been voted down twice, the whole thing. And they're including the school, the fire department, highway, DPW, and the town hall. Dan Connell told me the other day that they backed away from the town hall thing. They're going to leave the town hall where it is, but they're actively going to go forward with the fire DPW, I think it is what he told me. But they're going to go up again on as a referendum item, and I didn't think we were a referendum state.
No.
But he had said, though, that there's already, it's almost like it's got an internal mechanism built into it with the committee that they're going to circulate the petition and make sure that it gets
That's what they do.
put to referendum.
So they do the borrowing resolution,
Yeah.
and then get enough signatures themselves and put it out.
To make sure that it goes to referendum. So that way you've got will of the people on it. So anyway.
Alfondre came, looked at the stuff. We sat down with Mike, and they put together police, they put together the public works, highway, and when they sent all the documentation back, it was $2.3 million, and Mike didn't like the highway building when it came back. He said, you sat down with this guy to design this building, and it was incorporating everything into it, he's not going to be able to go out and find a building on the internet. You know, you're going to have to go through an architect firm, you're going to have to go through engineering, you're going to have to go through the process. It might have started the process and then the process stops, so. But if we're going to spend that kind of money on a highway, we might as well do police at the same time and clear that hill and sell that property, you know?
Okay, well, number one, as someone who has worked extensively with metal frame, metal skin buildings, I disagree with the concept that that building can't be repaired for a reasonable amount of money, much less than rebuilding.
Okay.
And I think it needs to be looked at by an expert independently and a proposal put forth for repair. Or let that expert say that it can't be repaired, because I disagree with the one focus concept going ahead that building can't be repaired.
Yeah, Alfondre first was talking about repairing it, and that got taken off the table, because they had said that
Well,
the steel beams can be fixed, they can be rewelded, they were initially talking about that, and that got taken off the table.
what I've found that in the past, we've had different experts working for the town that offered several different proposals to look at. And because of the direction they felt they were being given by the administration
Yeah.
and the board, they went in a particular direction. Not necessarily the best direction. And I think we need, if you were asking me as a builder, my opinion of that building, I would tell you that I firmly believe that it could be repaired and upgraded. I mean, there's heat concerns, there's all kinds of concerns with that building, I understand that. But I really feel that it could be addressed as a renovation project versus a new build project and save the town a hell of a bunch of money.
Good.
And I think we should look at that. I really do. The salt issue that you brought up, buying off-season to me makes a lot of sense. And I think it would be, very beneficial for the town to talk to Putnam, Hague, Crown Point, Spoon Lake. That's 5 towns. That's a lot of salt. That's a lot of buying power.
It sounds too simple to be doable. I hope it is. I hope it will be doable.
That's what makes it sound so difficult from a political point of view.
Yeah.
Is the simplicity.
Yeah, but it makes sense, which we could try.
So how about you contact those communities?
I will, but I was told, I had Carla called the salt, I guess it's Cargill is the primary vendor, and they had said that whoever she talked to, that they weren't looking for new customers, which...
They aren't going to get any new customers. They're going to get old customers that come in a group.
Yeah. We'll work on it. I'll report back on that.
They would rather, okay, they know what we're trying to do. They know we're going to try and beat them up over price. Fine. Do they want to sell to us, or do they want us to go to Syracuse and get it?
Right. And that's...
I'm open for that.
$63.39 a ton. I mean, and like I said, we were out for a good portion of the winter. I mean, a lot of these roads were sanded for the want of salt, so you're gonna have, they'll be pretty much a dirt road until we can get the roads swept in the spring. I mean, it's a huge cost.
Now, we're going to get a thunderstorm, it'll all go into the chute and an overflow.
Tracy will
Then we'll have to dredge.
Yeah.
Okay, down to the transfer station. Chatty had circulated the page from the metal contract renewed in May of 2013. Chatty, you guys, would you like to speak to that?
Well, I'd like to ask Matt did I give you a copy of that? And were you able to determine if that's something we can back out of?
How much of a fight do you want? That contract, I remember, I had to go back and kind of dig through old notes, but I remember when we did it. That was like, I want to say like 08 or 09.
7.
Is it back that far?
Yeah, I got it right here.
It was a while ago. And part of the deal back then, it was a better deal for the town than it is now, if I remember. Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, they sweetened it, yeah, 2000.
Yeah, so, but the deal was, the trade-off was, okay, we'll give you this price or whatever it was, but we want to be able to have a renewal clause on the end of it.
So it says it renewed automatically on May 17th, 2013
Yeah,
for a
3 years.
3-year term.
So you're up till 16.
Yeah, so we've got 2 more years.
Yeah. Can we break it?
Try to. They don't have to let you out if that's what you're asking.
Could we ask to be let out?
Yeah. Can I ask
Can we
you?
just ask? Call Sharon? Ask her?
Yeah.
She would. I mean,
They came in special for that one, Bob, had them come and give a presentation
I remember.
and redo their amounts.
Oh, we went back and forth with drafts, and that's why I had to go back to remember.
I think you've got a perfect opportunity. I think you could get out of that contract. I think they'd let you out of that contract.
Call.
Well, I think we ought to try it.
There's no unilateral ability.
Because there's no greater windfall of revenue anyway. I mean, they don't make a whole lot on it. I mean, we don't make a lot on it. We get half of what comes in off it, right? You know, there's not a lot. $7,000, $8,000 a year, or something. In my recollection.
How much do they pay us? They pay us for that?
We get half of the number 2 bin, number 2 bale. It's a daily market number. Paying for scrap metal is 50% of the published price for number 2 bundle index, net ton, as published daily by the American Metal Market, LLC.
What about all the other stuff?
Well, the recycle goes to Circle. The recycle goes, this is just for the scrap metal that they throw in up there. But the recycle stuff, Circle gets for free.
And if I remember, that percentage was lower.
Yeah,
You guys wanted more,
yeah.
and then went up.
Because it was higher.
That's right. Well, that's back when
And they
it was,
renegotiated the amount.
that's right. And it was a different index too, I remember going to the
So-
southern index.
Where are they getting the cost of the material to give us 50%?
It's an index. It's like a market index. You can go online. I actually looked it up the other day.
Because I know you take these places around here, you know, they pay so much, but you go to the, if you
It's a
go,
commodity.
What is number 2 bundle? Excuse me.
I looked it up the other day.
What does it consist of? Not how much money is it? What does it consist of?
I believe it's a mixture of
Oh, I can't tell you all the top of my head.
different things, different, you know, metals.
Okay, what's the price of it?
That's what I would like to know.
Now, that's the same company that Earth Waste, right?
Yes.
So they're the ones who pick up at Screw Lake. And we were told, we went out there last Friday, Fred and I went out,
They're doing 90.
91.52 a ton, less, and they pack that down with a backhoe. And it's less $100.
Doesn't matter if they pack it or not, it's weight.
Right, so that's why they pack it. But you can get more in a truckload and you pack it down, because they charge $100 to pick it up.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You know, that's a separate item, but the packing has nothing more to do than saying on trucking. That's all that's about. The weight is the weight is the weight.
Yeah, you just get more on a truckload, so,
If you can get more on, you cut down on the amount of trucks that you need, and every truck you can avoid, you save a $100 bill.
right. Yeah, boy, you catch up. I'm sorry. Well, that's what I was thinking. Anyway, then they charge $5 to take the Freon out of refrigerators, and then Earth Waste takes those too.
They do it themselves, or they hire some, they do it themselves?
think
They have
the
they have a gentleman come in and do it.
Yeah.
I know who it is. You have to be licensed to do that.
And I think that's where all their metal recycling goes in there too. Like right now, our metal is a separate bin out with the plastic, but I think they throw the metal recycling in there too, is that what you understood, Fred?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe so.
So we
Right.
actually have more to make
Yeah.
money on.
Okay.
They also had zero sort, so that instead of having a
Well,
bid,
the number 2 bundle, you might just as well throw your cans in there, but, because you got a lot of those.
Okay, Fred will be taking a trip to see the transfer station in Scone. They have made some upgrades. Fred, did you go over there?
Oh, yes, Chaddy and I both went.
Okay, so as far as the upgrades go?
I thought we were just talking about that.
We were.
I didn't hear, what was the upgrade? What did they do?
they put in a digital scale,
Okay.
and they have the scale that the truck drives on, but this digital scale is connected to a cash register, and it has a memory so that at the end of the day, they have record of how much weight how much weight went over that scale, and they cash out every day, and the amount that went over the scale has to equal the amount in the cash drawer, and it goes to the town clerk's office every day. So Mike said that their revenue had gone down by like $22,000 in a year, and New York State Comptroller's Office came and audited, and they made the recommendation to do that scale. They also made the recommendation to install a camera on site, but the town board opted not to do that.
They had some issues with personnel that they corrected also,
Right.
along with some of their other upgrades, I believe.
Also, to extend that a little bit, I checked on the cost of having one of those scales put in, and they give me a quote of between $3,500 and $4,000. This scale will kick out a slip telling the weight of that material goes across it every time. And also, it'll have a memory to where you can go in and pull it out for your records to check if you want to do any actual checking to make sure that you're getting all your slips and whatnot.
As far as our discrepancies, I mean, I've heard things like used library books don't get charged for, the garbage that the town takes up there from the parks and whatnot, the beach. Is there any way we can start, just try to get a general idea or start weighing everything that goes and see if we can reconcile the discrepancy without spending money on a scale?
Well, really, everything that somebody disposes of should be paid, that costs the town money, so.
Tim weighs all that stuff.
He does now?
Yeah,
Oh,
he has been.
Okay,
He's told me every year what the 4th of July brings up there.
okay.
And it's been reported, I think, in Highway Report.
For what the town brings in, but he's not charging for books, is that what you said?
Well, I had heard that in the past, Chad, that a lot of times obsolete books from the library and stuff go up there, and they weigh up a lot.
Yeah,
That
they're
was-
recyclable.
The books are recyclable?
They
Yeah.
don't,
Should have.
well,
The other thing.
they don't do that.
Okay.
Well, certain books are recyclable, the hard covers.
You just have to rip the covers off.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we get
All the
boxes of
papers
books
recycled.
down here, we
Yeah.
ask them to pick it up, and I'm told that it goes right on the scale, instead of them bringing it over to
Now,
recyclable.
on the things that people bring in, like, let's say somebody brings in a lawnmower that they figure they don't need it anymore, whatever it may be. Instead of just handing it out to somebody if they want it, they charge them so much for it, $10 or something like this,
Screw like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
In other words, people that go in and pick the dump, as we used to call it, they charge them for them items, a certain amount, but they mark it down and it comes to the town, rather than to have them go in and take it out free of charge. The other thing that we looked at also is, like Chatty mentioned it, the non-sortable, or no,
The zero
I'm
sort.
sorry. No, it was the paper.
The paper.
That's what I'm thinking of. And they, cardboards and papers and everything, they combine with the school because they have to have a minimum of 3 ton, is it? I got it somewhere. Anyway, because the town wouldn't have enough just on their own. So they combined with the school, and then they split the profits with the school over it. And this is something that I want to check into. I haven't had an opportunity yet. But Bill told me a man I need to see, and I need to get his name again and write it down, so I don't forget it.
No, John McDonald, Superintendent of Schools.
There's a company that does that, it's called Green Fiber. It takes clean paper and cardboard.
Yes. What's his name?
John McDonald.
Oh, John, oh, okay. Okay,
The other
okay.
thing is computers and electronics. That's
Okay, it was discussed the fact we charge for C&D and shingles by the yard, and we pay to dispose of it by weight. Mike has a Mr. Smith that is looking for space at the transfer station to allow people to dispose of computers and other electronics that he would collect. So he indicated he was going to work on it, Chad, as far as getting that operational. He gave ours, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
Mike gave, I think he gave that number to Fred, but Fred's having a hard time finding it, so I think Mike could follow up on it again, that'd be great.
Tanya said it. It's for Andy Belkovich wanting to get reappointed to the...
Assessment Board of Review.
Yeah,
Can we finish?
let's finish
Yeah,
this.
sure, okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's all I've got. We're going to continue to work on the recycling.
I mean, you got that, right?
Yeah, one, I don't personally. but we
No,
bring it.
okay, all right.
Next highway meeting is Wednesday, February 26th, at 11 o'clock. Or no, yes, March 25th. March 25th, at 12. Sorry.
Before we leave highway, I got a question. Why are we only considering one specific type, brand, description of sidewalk plow?
Why? Well, the thought was to get on tracks. And basically, the crew, people had experience, firsthand experience with the Bombardier machine. And it had been a good fit here for many years with the village, the former village, and then after a while with the town as well. So again, we were just kind of, it's something, you know, but I don't think we're limited to anything. If we could get on tracks, we need to have it be on tracks, bogies and tracks, so it's stable on uneven terrain and whatnot. And that was kind of the thinking from a safety perspective. But tracks would do it.
I've talked to Mike a couple times, and I've tried to get some interest generated in a Bobcat brand or something similar that are readily available with all kinds of attachments for a whole lot less money, for a size that will fit our narrower sidewalks.
I wouldn't be adverse to that. I mean, if he's willing to look at it. I mean, Mike is the one that's got ultimately, decide on what we buy, or make a recommendation to the board as to what we buy.
I think we decide on what we buy.
No, but they will make a recommendation, and the tool that they need to do their job with, I guess, would be how I would look at it.
So how'd that last sidewalk?
Is that a tool I can remember being a little kid, and I always wished for the Roy Rogers cap gun for Christmas, and sometimes I got hop-along, because it was all that my parents could afford.
We'll continue to look at it. Like I said, it's not even on the radar for this year, because they don't have the money to do it.
They would have the money if they stepped down and wanted to look at it.
Well, he's got a truck he needs. He needs to replace a 5500 up there, and that's, I guess, a higher priority than the sidewalk tractor.
The concern I have is that we've had any number of complaints about our sidewalks this year. And I personally, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I personally have witnessed sidewalks that were probably nothing more than an accident looking for a place to happen. Today is not probably the best day or the fairest representation of what we've had for sidewalks. But there's a lot of sidewalks today. Obviously, some of them have been hit, the wider ones, but all the narrow walks, you know, are a disaster. We're gonna have kids going to school tomorrow. We're gonna have ladies wanting to walk downtown and shop and whatnot. And if we don't get a damn sidewalk plow up and running,
It's running, I saw it today. The Bellows, it's running, but again, it's 54 inches wide.
it
It's a snow
won't do
blower.
the work because of all the complaints that are with it. And if, you know, it's obviously not the right tool for the job. Everyone says we need a machine 4 feet wide, 48 inches. Bobcat and other companies make those 48-inch machines with V-plows, with snow blowers, with quick disconnect attachments, with sanders.
Yeah.
I really think somewhere we need to start adjusting our thinking
Well,
and see if we can do it.
I will look at
I
it.
would love to have our committee
I will work on it.
address some of that.
I will.
And if they want to have me support them and whatnot, I'll make myself available.
Right.
I'll be glad to sit down and talk about it with them.
Yeah, I'll see, maybe we can get one to come up as a demo, let them try it. The wastewater treatment plant has one. They have a Bobcat.
Well, they
used for years.
they have a Bobcat at
With the
the
snow
garage,
with
but
the plow?
it's too wide. It's another machine that's too big
Right.
for what we need. We need one that fits what we gotta get, but, I mean, they're on tracks. They have, you know,
Yeah.
I know they're a lot cheaper, but I wouldn't hold that against them. They're a pretty dependable machine.
Right. The bombardier that they had looked at was a used one. They found, like I said, Jeff Cook had helped them, and they found it on the internet out in Michigan. There's some municipality was declared it surplus.
They could probably buy a new Bobcat in New York State, which,
Yeah.
I know that.
But we'll work on it, Bill, and get back to you.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Human Services, Youth and Seniors, Mr. Huntsman.
Youth and seniors?
Yes.
Okay. We got a youth meeting. Call to order at 5 PM, asking for a motion to ask the board for a resolution to advertise for counselors and lifeguards. Councilwoman Chatty Van Wert and myself met with Ken Standish and Pat Bright. Their friends are going to try to raise the money through donations for the cameras and whatever else has to be paid for to put this skateboard ring back in use. I will not tolerate the reconstruction of the skateboard arena in the manners that has been happening. The town is responsible for the equipment and how it is constructed. Marge Hulbert has changed some of her program times to meet the early dismissal and days off with the school. February 23rd was the last skating day for the semester. There were 18 kids on the bus and 42 altogether. The last day, Helen's position will have to be advertised in early August. Our next meeting will be March 17th at 5 PM at the Armory. Excuse me. That's it.
Thank you. Any comments? Public safety.
Oh, seniors first,
Excuse me.
Ann's been sitting here 2.5
Sorry.
hours.
Senior.
Senior.
Oh, okay. Okay, the meeting was called to order by President Jan Putnam, 1 PM with a salute to the flag. There were 17 members present and 2 guests. Wednesday of the month, starting in April, they have a potluck supper has been changed from February 21st to March 7th, 5 PM. They are joining Interlakes Nursing home, hoisting Lou Allen. They will share the cost. Lou Allen plays country music and shares some interesting facts from behind the scenes. They will be hosting a safety drive class in April. The class is limited to 30 students. Excuse me. The monthly trips to Glens Falls from April to October, as long as there is no overtime, will be advertised, and everyone that wants to go will have enough, will be able to, as long as there is enough seats. That's something that I want to bring up. Ann asked me to. Is it all right for them to run over 2 hours as long as the seniors pays for the bus driver's time? See, before it was, we was paying for it, and that's the one thing that we would not do. We told them we will not pay for overtime for them. So the seniors want to know if they pay for it, is it all right with the board?
How would we control that for accounting purposes?
You'd have to use the living rate, you'd have to use the benefit rate, you know, the true cost of labor, right?
At least.
Courtesy of the floor to Mark.
Sure.
We have experience in this in the police end, for example, when Walmart requests a police officer for attending a Black Friday event at Walmart. The budget office has a set percentage above and beyond the wage rate, the overtime rate, that is accepted for accounting purposes. So I think that the budget office does have experience in contracting with outside entities.
Okay.
So technically, what we would have to do is we would have to pay her, but they would have to reimburse us. Is that correct?
Couldn't change the start time today.
Walmart, we establish a contract with the entity which covers insurances and times of that we're expected to be there, et cetera. I'm not sure just for the actual rate there is experience for contract.
Yeah, they don't pay direct, they pay the town.
Right, they pay the town and money.
So the seniors club, in this instance, the seniors club would reimburse the town.
That's what it would have to be, yes.
Mr. Taylor just
I think.
mentioned something that I also think bears looking at. On the days that they want to go to Glens Falls, that would the driver try and make all their early runs and then leave, or do you leave early and?
I think she picks up at 8, starting to pick up about 8 in the morning.
And then you go directly to Glens Falls. So
Basically that day, there's no senior bus.
if we adjusted the start time, we might be able to avoid a good deal of that overtime. It would mean the senior bus would only be available for the people going on a trip. And as long as that isn't going to be a big issue with your seniors.
So they go just once a month?
Yeah, once a month.
Only from April till October.
The other one is, along with that, was they have some plays out in Schroon Lake, is that what, that they would like to go, but they would also reimburse the town for any of the drivers' wages. Pardon?
Those are on a Saturday.
On a Saturday.
Okay.
And I didn't know whether we could just have the substitute driver drive, or whether, but we would be willing to pay for the cost of the driver if the town, and she would still collect the money for, I think it's $5 to Schroon Lake. If she goes to Glens Falls, it's $10 a person, and you would still get that.
Okay, and that's for the extra fuel and stuff that they can. I'd like to have the committee investigate adjusting the time. And
You
if-
posed the question last month, I thought was a good one. Is it the overtime that you're getting hit is because the person who's driving? That's what it sounds like, right? The
Yes.
person wants the hours, which I can understand. But if you have substitute drivers, that wouldn't hit the 40-hour mark.
Yeah, well, that would be the thing to do with the,
There's one set wage in the budget, so it doesn't go over and beyond.
Okay. You asked the question.
The subs are there when our regular full-time driver can't drive.
Okay.
The budget is set at that 40-hour week salary, whether it's her driving or it's part, or another driver.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense, Bill?
Do you know what I mean?
Well, he was asking the question last month, is it a
It's
time and a
not-
half?
so
issue?
we have so many hours available.
Right. It's whoever drives.
If
it's
we
a 40
use
hour.
more hours, we would need to adjust the budget.
Right.
And the contribution from the seniors for that time would be,
It could offset it, and it could. be-
so it wouldn't necessarily be an overtime charge, it would be a labor charge at whatever that rate is, which could be determined from the budget figure.
Yeah. And you'd want to watch that to make sure it doesn't hit time and a half. Ratings, right? That driver hits the 40-hour mark.
You know, in answer to your questions, these are not insurmountable problems. Can I give you the direct, absolute answers as to how it's gonna work? Not right now, but we'll get it solved. And you'll probably go to Glens Falls in April.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We just want to know we're willing to
we appreciate
help
that.
what we can.
We appreciate that. And we'll try and make it so that it doesn't have to work that way, but if we can't, we'll take advantage of your generous offers. Okay.
See what happens when you have a senior supervisor, goes your way.
Hey, gotta look out, I gotta look out for my people.
Yeah, mine too.
He wants to go.
I might need to take that trip before too long, you know?
There you go.
Now you can drive, can you
Not
drive the
that far
bus?
from there.
Yeah, can you drive the bus now?
There you go. You could drive the bus.
I suppose I could, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the
Anything
way,
else?
yes, by the way, the bus seats 14 people plus the driver, in case anybody wants to know.
Okay.
There were some flyers passed out, March Madness activities locally. There is something for everyone, please. Support our community. Guest speaker Laurie Davis from Cornell Extension Corporation did an energy workshop addressing aspects of saving money through better ways of saving the usage of electricity and/or fuel through drafts, insulation, and lighting. Speaker Davis addressed the new lighting technology for light bulbs and etc. Speaker Davis passed out literature and gave 3 energy-efficient light bulbs to all the seniors. Next meeting is March 19th, 1 p.m. at the Armory. Guest speaker will be Judy, G-O-U-R-L-E-Y, Gorley, with her Seeing Eye Dogs. And that's it.
Okay. Public safety.
Okay. I haven't done much tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and read a little. Okay? Actually, there's a lot of points in here I want to make sure people hear about, so. Our meeting was February 24th, myself and Councilman Huntston with Margaret Lallman, Bill Ball, Chief Johns, Ross Kelly, Dave Woods, Calvin Cross, and Ron Trinquine. We had no public comment, it's kind of nice. There was a discussion regarding grease traps, and this is what I want to visit about in restaurants and how this is becoming an issue in code enforcement. Previously, this was only a Department of Health issue. Bill also talked about need to purchase placards. Okay, let's take these one at a time. The grease trap. We had our first restaurant association meeting with the chamber. Went great. This was brought up because it came in a document that wasn't on town letterhead. and was just sent to them and gave me 6 months. And they said, they asked me, because they knew the department, I'm regulated by the Department of Health, not being in town of Ticonderoga. When they asked me to do mine, they gave me 2 years. And they said, 6 months, ground's frozen now, we got to do engineering. We got Americade coming in summer. I mean, 6 months puts you into August, our busiest time of the year. As being a community in Ticonderoga, and knowing that's our busiest time, could you give us a little more time to install these things when we can make the money and it's a slower season? Where there's a code issue, it needs to be handled right away. But some of these people have been there 20, 30 years, and they were just asking if they could have a little more time to digest this, get ready to do it, save some money, and put these things in. So
I don't see it as an issue. I know that was back quite a while ago, we arrived at that 6 month,
yeah,
and it was just
yeah.
arbitrary, it wasn't no,
But they wouldn't even be able to touch the ground for another month at least, I would imagine. And you've got to engineer it, and the Department of Health usually is involved, or the town's going to have to be involved in some way, shape, or form. So they were asking if they could have more time on that. So that was that question.
There was one particular restaurant that was a problem, right?
Yes.
Well, but that's a violation, that's different. That has to be handled right away.
Okay.
Because that impacts the sewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my
But these
question.
guys-
As long as it, I would look at it as long as there is not an ongoing issue that is known.
Yes, no violation, we're
that we
talking
could-
about no violation.
I would think we could stretch it,
Okay.
to a more reasonable timeframe.
Okay.
I have no problem
because,
with that.
correct me if I'm wrong, if they have an issue with their sewer, they have to shut down.
Yes,
The viability component of having the grease trap would be to their benefit
Yeah.
long term.
but if they've been there 25 years
No,
and
I
haven't had to
understand.
shut down, chances are another 6 months,
The issue that's come up has come up because of a change in technology that's actually an upgrade, makes for a better community and whatnot.
Yes.
And it was something that I think the restaurant people got taken by surprise with it.
Yeah.
They didn't see it coming. I don't think the town saw it coming.
No.
It's here, we're trying to address it,
I guess they're just asking for more time.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I don't have a problem with
And I read something else, but I forgot.
it. The placards.
Oh, yeah. He wants to get some money for placards, because legally, these buildings that are burned, they're supposed to be placard for the trespassing and all that, and nobody to go in them, and otherwise we're liable. So he looked at some places, some of these things are made out of plastic, they're pretty easy to come by, and he'd like to purchase some of those. We just, sir?
I think that's fine, but I think that a more specific item should be brought to the board.
As far as,
Purchase it. Exactly what size.
well, he's going to find all that out.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to find all that out. This just.
I mean, like if it's a posted sign thing, those are all available online.
Yes.
I've purchased them a number of times. And depending on size, shape, what it says,
He was looking at cost, because he knew metal was much more expensive than plastic, so he has been, he's looking at cost, and that's what he's going to.
He got a line, he's got a .4 line item in his budget, don't he?
Yes.
The issue between the plastic and the metal, though, is, in my opinion, is durability. There's no comparison.
Yeah, we're just trying to get something on these places. Right now, we have nothing,
Yeah.
so we're
I
definitely,
understand.
as a town, so. Extensive discussion on the certificate of occupancy. You've already helped us with that. We're going to get that handled and behind us as quick as we can. There was also the discussion about the need to fill that employment vacancy in code enforcement. We got to get somebody else in there. I mean, we
It's
can make money.
advertised. Do we
Yeah.
have any, do you know if we have any applicants yet? You wouldn't know.
No, that was
Okay.
personal.
Okay.
So, that was code. Then we went on.
How long did that ad run?
2 weeks. It ran for 2 weeks. But it was like 2 months ago.
So, yeah, it's got to be up.
So are we post for the safety officer / we used to be building codes 3, where you could bring in somebody and train them.
It's
And then
been
the other one-
advertised like 3 different times now. The last time was supposed to be the way to get somebody. I can't tell you off the top of my head what
But
it
the
was.
safety officer had a lot of prerequisite training /
We went with something in the middle, I believe.
And they have time to get that. You can hire them, and then they got X amount of time to go get some of those certifications as the classes come up, so.
I'll follow up on that in the morning.
Oh, I wanted to hear it. Okay. As far as the police department, Mark spoke about the monthly meetings being conducted to address nuisance properties. He had reported on action being taken against one property now because of excessive police calls for service and excessive code enforcement violations, so we're working on that with the nuisance law. Mark reported there have been complaints made to police and other town officials about vehicles parking within the travel lane in areas of Lake George Avenue and Lord Howe Streets. Committee addressed this same issue last year, but the town board at that time opted not to amend the local law regarding parking. The committee decided to review the minutes and recommendations from last year on the next issue. I don't know.
There was a guy with a BMW parked on Main Street today. I mean, he must have been, he's probably still shoveling up there. There was so much snow packed.
But these things are tough, you know. As a guy who drives a school bus and learned how they are tough. Mark discussed several cases over the past months where the officers have made significant arrests and responded to dangerous life-threatening. If it's okay with the board, I'd like to give the courtesy floor to Mark. I didn't understand all this was going on. I'd like him to visit about that if you could for just a second.
Sure. I think it'd be good for the board to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this came from more critiquing myself. At the last committee meeting, I realized that I've been in the position for 5 years now, but I've gotten into the routine of just going into my committee and saying business as usual, everything's going fine, let's have a quick and easy meeting tonight. I lost sight of the valuable work that the officers are actually out there doing, and it was an eye-opening experience for committee members and even the elected officials, not understanding what work these guys are actually out there completing. I took a handful of incidents from the previous 30 days, just about 5 of them, just to say, this is what our officers are doing. On 2 separate occasions, in the middle of the night, the officers were out performing CPR in someone in the most serious of medical emergencies. There had been sudden cardiac arrest. They're at that house within 2 minutes while the volunteers are getting out of bed to man the ambulance squad. The police officers are there manning electronic defibrillators and performing CPR on these people in medical emergencies. We had one incident where an officer and assistant fire chief showed up at a residence that was fully engulfed in flames, and neighbors are telling us that there's children still inside. Without hesitation, when these 2 men kicked down the front door and go into that residence, and only got out themselves when the building backdrafted and literally blew them out the side of the building, singeing the hair off of their eyebrows out there in the middle of the night trying to rescue children. We had another incident where this is a contention for some of the board members, but in the middle of the night, a gentleman with a shotgun fired off several rounds and then went into a residence and was holding that shotgun to the head of a young lady in Crown Point. The closest law enforcement agency was us. It would have been 30 minutes to 40 minutes for a state trooper to get there, where we have trained, professional, and able police officers who were there in a matter of minutes to actually apprehend this man, put him in custody, and gift wrap him for the state troopers when they arrived at that location, just because of the time of the night. Those are the rescue situations, but arresting, getting the people you don't want on the street. Residential burglaries. We had 2 victims in that 30-day period where their houses were burglarized, and this department was able to adequately investigate and arrest the people who committed those residential burglaries. And one of the other ones that's just an eye-opener for the drug problem in the community, 7:15 in the morning, school buses are going down Montcalm Street, and they have to swerve around a car that's in the middle of the road. The officers locate that car in the middle of the road in front of this community building with an individual who is passed out with heroin packets and a needle in his lap, and they're arresting him at 7:15 in the morning in front of the community building for the town of Ticonderoga. Again, you don't hear about this, and some people in the community have the perception that our officers are just out there driving around in those fancy cars and writing a speeding ticket here or there. But from now on a committee level, and I won't do this every month in the town board meeting, But I really am going to take a handful of the exceptional of cases that I really see are exceptional, and you as a town board should be proud to have these employees that are out there willing to perform these functions for you.
Thank you.
I feel that it needs to be out there however you want to put it out there, so people do know. And I think it's excellent that you brought it to, out in this town board.
Well, the committee definitely expresses its appreciation to the officers, and we're looking for more discussions on what's going on, because I didn't know. I'm one of the guys that probably egged him into doing this. You might not believe this, but sometimes I harass people. We went ahead and paid the bills. The meeting was adjourned. Next meeting will be Monday, March 31st. On the bottom of this, you'll notice that Mark prepared the minutes. That's because Ron Drinkwine has been ill. So just so you know, he's been very ill. He normally does the minutes. And thank you for doing this, Mark, and we hope Ron's okay. Appreciate that.
I had some firsthand experience on exactly what you were talking about. A neighbor of mine took ill a couple weeks ago, and again was having some issues and cognitive issues. The Thai police were there at least a good 10 minutes before the emergency squad showed up. Patrolman Bellman was there. I mean, like I said, ready, willing to do whatever was necessary. Thankfully, he didn't have to do anything. But, that's much to their credit, Mark, and to your credit, and the department's credit.
I will take those comments back to my guys, and they are very good. It's always welcoming when they get a pat on the
Definitely. And the thing is, as we don't have a paid emergency squad, they have to gather, before they can get there, and your man is there. I mean, he can shoot right there. It's excellent.
That's all I have, please. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move along to library and cable TV.
There was a,
Tired, shovel snow. I have a very brief report.
Good.
I haven't got
Are you done?
You just give me the word, man. I can make it as brief as you want. There is a summary of changes to the Time Warner franchise. It's going to be in the minutes. I have seen it in the paper, and they're adding channels and taking channels away and adding services and kind of changing the a la carte offerings that they currently give the town or make available to their subscribers. So that's pretty much it on the cable end of it. And it doesn't sound like, it sounds like they're making their best faith effort to keep the services they've been providing. It's beyond their control because, some people are holding out for contractually for more than I guess they're willing to pay based on my reading of it.
How come weather channels out of Crown Point instead of Ticonderoga?
I can't answer that.
Please.
I can find out. I'll work on it.
Find out for me.
I'll find out why it shows Crown Point as opposed to Time.
Yeah.
Weather Channel was a hard case. DirecTV just
It's
dropped
only
it.
on the big buck boxes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, seriously.
You
If
mean
it's,
if I unplug the box that's stuck on the road?
yes,
That maybe. Oh, I'm not even gonna go there. I believe you.
I've got 4 TVs in my house. One of them has a box. All right? That TV has Crown Point weather. The other 3 have Ticonderoga. You figure it out. They can't.
Have you called them on it?
Yes.
Wow. They've been sold though too. What, did Charter buy them?
Yes.
Time Warner has changed hands. So, anyway, that's all I have for my cable TV.
That's
In
it.
library.
Library, I was not able to attend the meeting, and they have some maintenance issues that Heather wanted to communicate to the board, which she has. There's a copy of it in your mailbox.
Yeah.
Nothing major, so that's all I have.
Insurance claim.
No report.
Contract negotiations. We are attempting to establish negotiations with the sewer and water department. They made a request for information. That was sent out a couple of weeks ago at least. The negotiators have been contacted and we're waiting for replies. There's no meeting set, there haven't been any meetings. That's it. The report of department heads, we'll start with the attorney. Are you done?
Yes. I have one resolution. You have the public hearing tonight on that zoning amendment.
Yes.
If you want to adopt the resolution that I sent to you to make that simple map change, you can do that now.
I think that would be most appropriate. Do we have a motion to
I'll
accept
make a
this?
motion.
Motion by Mr. Huntsman, second.
Second?
That's all words. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
You were here at the beginning of the meeting, right?
I think so, yeah.
Next item up is the budget. There are two items listed there. They are in relation to some litigation that was going on with property tax questions and our assessments, and the score is 2-zip. We were defeated on both items, and we have to send money to the county. We have one that comes from our contingency, which is be a resolution authorizing the budget transfer for contingency A to A in the amount of $8,229.77 for 2013 and 2014 for Ticonderoga tax adjustment. And the other resolution is authorizing highway unappropriated fund balance to the amount of $4,295.21 for 2013 and 2014 for Ticonderoga tax adjustment.
So the 8229, or is it 13.6 is the total?
13.6 is the total. Now, there is an amount in there for highway, or for, fire district. We don't hold funds for the fire district, so we're going to contact them and have them pay their share directly. We have a motion second?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Chief Johns,
Just three
or do you have anything more, Mark? No, that was my turn, wasn't it? Okay. Okay. Chief Johns, you're
Okay,
up.
three very quick things. Councilman Taylor, as you heard through Councilman Giuliano's report, I just made a check mark next to your line painting bid specs. We are going to reawaken a lot of the that drew up last year, just for at least discussion on a committee level, maybe pass on to the town board about prohibiting vehicles from parking within the travel lane of painted roadways. So before Mr. Parent goes out and actually paints a lot of lines on those roads, could we at least sit down and talk about some of those problem areas, or where the two of us can work together if this board might be talking about that issue in the future before you paint those lines on the road?
So where the outside travel lines is the issue, right?
Yeah, and for example, roads that have churches on them. That's the reason that last year the town board did not opt on it, because there was a concern expressed that, hey, I won't be able to park outside my church on Sunday morning if this law into effect. Father Joe's place, you might want to say, okay, well, there's no need, it's a secondary road, it's not a primary travel road. Let's leave that off the list, but it just, the two committees working together, if we are going to resurrect and examine that parking regulations.
There's no paint, there's no ticket.
Yeah, it's to our credit, because it costs so much a foot, you know. I mean, if we don't need to paint them, it would be a savings.
How much does a foot of paint cost?
I can't tell you, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's quite
They charge pretty expensive.
Can you,
Yeah.
can you?
Well, don't we have our own machine also?
Hire the contract, county.
We do have our
The
own
county does the lining.
We do have our own machine.
We have a line painting
Well, we
machine.
can't afford to paint.
I couldn't push it. I tried to push it across the road, I couldn't push it then.
Yeah, but you're old.
I know. I used to push it years ago, I couldn't push it.
Who else is gonna,
I couldn't push it.
That's why we have younger employees.
I said it's a man killer, that thing.
Most of us start at the top and go downhill.
I know.
Can these ordinances be Monday through Friday? I mean, the basic lane problem is Monday through Friday. If they weren't Saturday or Sunday, it wouldn't affect your holiday, it wouldn't affect a lot of your things going on, you know?
Town attorney would be better to answer that, but
As long as it's rational, it just becomes an enforceability issue for you guys. You just
Yeah, but I mean, it lets out if there's something going on Saturday or, you know.
But in regards to that, I couldn't locate my copy of what I put together last year.
Just one from the fall.
What's that?
One from the fall.
Then the churches would be exempt?
You had a local law, I think it was April was when you put that together last year. If you can get me another copy of that, when my committee was to be open.
Okay.
So that would be phenomenal. The second one I have, due to the great success we had last fall with prescription drug pickup event at the police station, we collected 4 large lawn and leaf bags of prescription medications that were no longer being used. And we just wanted to get out of houses and into an incinerator last fall. The local drug coalition, Ticonderoga Neighbors Addressing Substance Drug Abuse, and the police department are going to be hosting another drug collection day on April 26th, which is going to be a Saturday. Last year, and I'm going to ask again, we utilized money from the drug forfeiture account in order to advertise that event, purchasing a full-page ad in the Times of Tide, which contributed greatly to the success of the event. I'm asking for permission to use up to $400 of drug forfeiture money to, again, advertise the drug collection event.
I'll make that resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any more
Wait
dis-
until Chatty comes right down.
We've still got a quorum.
okay, I can write that she's absent for one resolution.
I got a question. Chief, as far as
know
your
that she
your
loves-
armor that used to take care of your weapons over there, left the town, do you have anybody, I mean, who does your maintenance of your stuff?
Officers are trained in maintaining their own weapon. He really would only deal with more complicated maintenance issues. Right now, I would have to go out and use a gunsmith on a local basis if one of my weapons actually went down.
I was just thinking about like the AR-15s, as far as cleaning them and stuff, is that?
I'm lucky that several of my officers, myself included, have personally owned weapons that we're very familiar with. We know areas to clean them, and they've grown up around firearms where we are competent in tearing them down. That's part of the initial training on patrol rifle is
Nothing, clean.
I just didn't know. Like you said.
maintenance. I would have to contract out, but for routine maintenance.
So it's a time event.
Silencer takes some water.
It was a timed event, basically. We have a motion and second on the floor. You ready to vote, Chatty?
So we use up to $400 of drug forfeiture money to advertise for a prescription drug drop-off day for April 26th. Now you can do your own favor.
Yeah.
$400.
Oh,
You're
It's
advertising.
absent.
Excuse me?
You advertise in a lot of places, $400?
No, I believe it was about 300. I'd have to pull the actual invoice from, it was between 3 and 4 for a full page or half page, full color.
Oh, okay.
ad.
Yep, yep.
It gets up there.
That's expensive, yeah. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, the last one is, it's with great regret, Mr. Drinkline, my record clerk, has submitted his resignation from the department effective May 30th. His health permitting, he may be able to come back in for a few shifts between now and then for the purpose of training replacement for him, just to show the ins and outs of the department. Mr. Drinkline, this is a new board, when we went from being 24-hour manned station with dispatchers to being an unmanned station, the clerical end of the police department previously was handled by our dispatch staff. The town board opted to hire 2 part-time record clerks rather than when we lost the dispatchers, and in subsequent budget workshops, I was brought down to just 1 record clerk at 25 hours a week is where I stand now. Last year's budget workshop, we did talk about with the previous board the planned resignation retirement of Mr. Drinkline this year, and they did grant me a full year salary for a record clerk, plus an extra $1,000 for an overlap period for 2 record clerks to work together so that they would be able to be trained by the person they are replacing. When we accept, if the town board chooses to accept Mr. Drinkline's resignation, which I wouldn't hold it against you if you don't, I would also ask that you consider advertising for the replacement position also.
I'd entertain a motion that with regret and many thanks for the job that he's done, we accept Mr. Drinkline's resignation.
I'll make that motion.
Unanimous second?
Anderson.
Thank you. And the other resolution I would entertain is to immediately advertise for the position of police clerk, records clerk, and get that in the paper as soon as possible.
I'll
Keep
make that motion too. You want?
A motion and a second?
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
In terms of the interview process, I mean, who's going to do the interview?
When we set up the timeframe, I would like to put together a group from the police committee that in previous experience hiring police employees. We've traditionally the 2 board members who sit on the police committee, and also Margaret Lawman, who stands as police commissioner.
Do we have a title with civil service right now in terms of this police records clerk that sets minimum quals and whatnot?
This is non-competitive, it's not an examination position.
Okay.
Is the impression that I have for this particular position, because of the number of hours, it's a non-competitive position. We have a local job description, which is upstairs in the personnel office and also in my files.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unless anyone has any questions for me, that's all I have.
I'd love to get a vote on that last resolution. Did we vote on that?
No, we did.
So we're gonna advertise for clerk, how many hours per week was it?
25, up to 25.
At $10 an hour, which is our starting wage. No benefits. Okay. Freddie, Chatty.
I thought we moved it.
I don't think we moved it.
Yes, I think you did.
We did? Okay, you're up. Town clerk.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Okay. Just a few notes, items that you're aware of or not aware of. One thing, items for the agenda for the monthly meeting, we're going to want those in for the regular monthly meeting. We want them in by close of business on Tuesday. Your minutes and all of that, so that we can prepare the agenda and not have items coming up at the last minute. I hate a cold deck. Okay? I don't like getting a document to be considered at the meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or at noon. Okay? It's going to be in the day before. The agenda will be out and to you in a proper form so that you get a chance to read it and be prepared for it.
Matt, just a question in terms of, I'm sorry, Bill, can I say something?
Sure.
as far as the sunshine law, I've been under the impression that any resolution that we were going to consider tonight should have been posted on the town website a month ago.
A month ago? No.
Not true?
Reasonable
Not doing
time.
every
Reasonable time.
reasonable effort to get it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't include, Peter had a specific requirement.
They didn't put a time limit on that.
No. Okay.
And actually, the time limit is it's got to be on the agenda as it's in the room when the meeting takes place.
Okay.
That's all.
That's why I make these nice little packs.
You're going to have,
I just didn't know about the time thing.
if you haven't already, you're going to be receiving emails about variance applications. You're also going to be receiving information about a new drug and alcohol policy. You've already received the information about personnel evaluations. I would love to be able to discuss that at our financial meeting so that we can get that in front of the unions and get that moving. And one thing I would like everybody to just think about for a little bit, just something to throw out there, is does the town need time clocks? And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
All right.
Executive, right?
No.